Power was misread in a hotel lobby. Lila Adair, a black woman who owns a luxury flagship, arrives incognito and gets hit with policy. As a weapon, cash-only deposits, selective flags, a smile that hides a wall. She doesn't perform anger. She checks in under an alias and runs a 72-hour audit to see who the hotel really is when it thinks no one's watching. What she uncovers: unauthorized fees, bias, risk, flags, vendors billing more than they fix, and the people who still choose dignity. Noor at the desk, Rosa in housekeeping, Andre in security. Inspectors arrive. A live safety scare hits, alarms, a sticky riser valve, a lobby on the edge. Lila leads calmly, protects guests, reveals ownership, and posts corrections the same day. No cash-only deposits, risk flags only with security incidents, accessible rooms prioritized, complaint routes that don't punish the complainer, and vendor rebids with conflict disclosures. Finally, she locks reforms into governance and publishes outcomes quarterly. This isn't revenge, it's a hotel that works. If this is your lane, subscribe to Blackness Hour, turn on notifications, and follow our socials in the description. Let's begin. The bell over the revolving door clicked like a metronome for money. Inside, everything was polished to the kind of shine that makes fingerprints feel like crime. Late afternoon light fell in generous sheets across marble and brass. A string trio leaked from hidden speakers, tasteful enough to make you think the air had a pedigree. Lila Adair paused just past the threshold and took it in like a surgeon reading a chart. Same Italian marble sheet approved. Same chandelier, tuned 3 degrees warmer to flatter skin. Same scent, citrus, white tea, the expensive kind that says, "We know what we're doing." She carried a weekend bag and a leather folio with a gold key charm that wasn't a key at all, just a reminder. On an ordinary day, someone would have recognized her, the smile from an interview, the profile in a magazine, the way she moved like the floor was familiar. But today wasn't ordinary. Today, she was Elise Grant, a walk-in guest with a debit card and a quiet voice, here to see who the hotel really was when it thought no one was watching. At the front desk, 3 stations glowed. A young woman with a crisp name tag, Noor, was helping a couple with maps and soft patience. At the center station stood a man whose suit fit like ambition, Chase. He had the kind of smile that showed teeth without warmth. He saw Lila and the smile did an assessment. Shoes, bag, hair, posture. He didn't step aside for her. He made her wait a beat longer than courtesy. "Next," he said, already looking at his screen. Lila stepped forward, placed the folio on the counter. "Checking availability for tonight. 1 night to start." "Of course." His fingers flicked. "Name?" "Elise Grant." He typed. "We are, unfortunately, at very high occupancy. A single is fine." He looked up, blink, calculation, and back down. "We do have a deluxe king. It's premium. I'll need a $500 cash deposit plus a card for incidentals." Lila let the sentence sit. "A cash deposit? For, potential things." His hand made a vague shape in the air. "Guests, incidents, a category called Not Our Kind. Policy for walk-ins, especially on event weekends." "Your policy is a card on file," Lila said softly. "And a hold. Cash is optional, not mandatory." Chase's eyes thinned. "Policies change." Do they?" Noor glanced over, sensing temperature. Lila caught her eye and offered the smallest breath of a smile. Noor returned it, then looked back at her couple, circling restaurants on a map with a pen that needed a new life. Chase tapped again. "I can offer you a courtyard view. Or I can suggest a motor lodge 2 exits south that might be more." He searched for an insult he could call kindness. "Appropriate." Lila let the music from the speakers fill the space his sentence left. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't let her face do the work her bank account could do for her. "Is your general manager on property?" she asked. "I'm the acting front office manager," he said, which was not the question. "The GM is off-site." "And you are?" "Chase Mallory," he said, confidence rehearsed. We have standards, Ms. Grant. We do, Lila agreed. For a half-second, he froze. The we vibrated in the air, almost fitting him, almost refusing him. Then he shook it off. Cash deposit, he repeated. Or I'm afraid. Excuse me, Noor said, appearing like Conscience with a lanyard. We have a Cityview Queen in 1421 that just released from housekeeping. Standard hold is fine, Ms. Grant. I can process that now. Chase didn't look at Noor. Trainees shadow, they don't overrule. Noor flushed. I didn't mean. Lila turned to Noor. Thank you. I'll take 1421. Chase put a hand on the desk like he could hold the hotel in place. The deposit is not required, Lila finished for him. She slid a card from the folio. Not her primary, this one had a ceiling she'd chosen. If you run anything beyond the hold without authorization, I'll dispute. And I'll be right. He ran the card. The system approved with a small celebratory ping that sounded, to Lila, like the opposite of trust. He printed forms and highlighted lines like a teacher grading in advance. His pen tapped next to a block of terms, a chunk recently expanded with fees that had multiplied like rabbits. Sign here. Resort fee applies, he said. We're not a resort, Lila said, eyes on the text. And this property was explicitly exempt. Chase's smile showed teeth again. We've repositioned. Without changing anything but the bill, Lila said, making a note in her head that had nothing to do with paper. She signed, let the pen pause a heartbeat longer than needed, then slid it back gently. Bags? He asked, already hoping she'd say no. I have my own, Lila said, and took the key card. She turned to Noor. Thank you for the room. Welcome to the ad, welcome, Noor said, catching herself, cheeks warm. Her sincerity fit the lobby better than the marble did. The elevator hummed like an animal that tolerated people. Lila pressed 14, watched the numbers climb, and let the mirror frame a face the news loved to caption with self-made and mogul. She preferred owner. Or sometimes janitor. Titles only mattered when they told people which mess was yours to clean. Room 1421 opened to a bed turned so crisp it dared her to wrinkle it. The city view was an alley with personality, ductwork, a stubborn vine, the backsides of billboards that did their best work unseen. She placed the folio on the desk, put the key charm on top, and took out a notebook labeled with a single word, audit. She wrote, Front desk demand cash for walk-ins. Non-policy. Resort fee added. Previously exempt. Script used to steer to other property. Trainee Noor knows policy. Interrupted by Chase. Tone, gatekeeping disguised as standards. Then she circled a box in the corner and labeled it pattern. A knock. Lila opened to a housekeeper with a basket of amenities and a smile that had cooked 1,000 kindnesses. Rosa, her name tag said. Turn down service, Rosa said. And some extra water. You looked like a person who would drink it. Thank you, Lila said. What's your schedule today? Rosa laughed softly. Today? We have a schedule every day. The schedule doesn't always have us. Lila stepped aside. Come in? Rosa hesitated, then entered, eyes cataloging like a person who could tell a story from a wrinkle. She set the basket down, adjusted a pillow with ritual, and glanced at the window. City view, she said deadpan. Then, because some truths deserve sweetness, she offered. The alley cats are better company than the river. What's your supervisor's name? Lila asked. I'm the supervisor, Rosa said. Rosa Jimenez. Everyone calls me Rosa because everyone does. Rosa, Lila repeated, like committing a password. Do you ever get pressure to mark a room as guest damaged when it's just where? Rosa tended to a curtain string like it had feelings. Pressure is a guest here, she said. Sometimes it checks in with luggage. But I'm old enough to be tired and young enough to have hands. My team marks what is true. She looked up. Mostly. Mostly? Rosa looked at the bed. If a desk tells you to find a reason to move a guest? Sometimes a reason gets found. Lila made another note. Then a third, this one with a star. Thank you, she said. For the water. For the truth. Rosa tipped her head. You're welcome, Ms. Elise, Lila said. Rosa left the door with a tap that sounded like respect. The phone buzzed with a message from Dana, investors in town. Might swing by incognito before the board dinner. Also, you'll want to see the weekend panel. Resort fees sprouted overnight. I'm watching from the floor, Lila typed back. Tell Caroline I'll be at the dinner, then the walkthrough. She changed into a softer shirt and flats that made the hotel her size. Then she did the thing that tests ownership better than any spreadsheet. She went downstairs and sat where people's days got decided. The lobby bar wore its velvet like a quiet brag. A bartender with sleeves rolled and story-ready forearms set a glass of club soda in front of her without asking, which earned him a second glance and a 20 later. Lila watched the front desk in the mirror behind the bar, a surveillance camera for the polite. She saw Noor check in a family with a stroller, juggling crayons and a credit card hold with grace. She saw a travel-weary couple get rekeyed with an apology that actually sounded like one. She saw Chase smile at a man in a suit that cost as much as a mortgage payment, and wave the incidentals like a magician pulling silk from a sleeve. She also saw a young black couple, 20-somethings, hand-holding, nervous, step up with a printed confirmation. Chase scanned, pursed, and began a performance that Lila could have recited line by line. We are fully committed. No, I can't honor third-party bookings without our confirmation number, and there's also a cash deposit for walk-ins. Of course I understand, it's policy. His voice made policy sound like a weapon engraved with kindness. Noor looked toward him, then toward Lila, then back, like a dog hearing a storm before it breaks. She gathered 2 water bottles and approached the couple with a whisper and a pen, her body between them and Chase like a wing. Lila scribbled in the notebook, cash deposit used selectively. Noor deflects harm. Script versus service. She finished the soda, left a bill that could pay for a Sharpa collection, and wandered to the gift boutique. She bought a postcard of the hotel's facade and wrote, "We own this because it must be better than this." Else she stamped nothing and put it in her folio, a letter to herself before the war. At the elevators, a man with a quiet tie and expensive shoes stood just a bit too still. He nodded almost imperceptibly when their eyes met. Mr. Reed, the investor, if she wasn't mistaken. Lila gave the mirror of his nod back. Incognito recognizes incognito the way real musicians hear key signatures. On 14 again, she passed a room with a service-needed tag and paused. A housekeeper leaned against her cart, rubbing her wrist. You okay? Lila asked. The woman smiled, made of tired and steel. Yes. We are always okay until we're not. What breaks okay? Lila asked. Chairs with 3 legs, she said, and they both laughed more than the joke deserved. Night dropped its velvet. Lila changed into a dress that didn't apologize and a jacket that had argued with boardrooms and not lost. She slipped the key charm into her pocket and headed to the private dining room for the board dinner. Chase stood near the host stand, coaching a server with a finger that never pointed at himself. He saw Lila and blinked, face almost recognizing something it had tried not to see. Ms. Grant, he said, as if graciousness could be retroactive. Enjoying your city view? I am, Lila said. Your team works hard. He preened at praise not meant for him. We keep standards. Standards keep people, Lila said, and left him smiling at a sentence that hadn't chosen him. In the dining room, Caroline Voss greeted her with a kiss near the air. Dana slid a folder under her hand like a gambler with a royal flush. Resort fee? Lila asked, a single eyebrow doing hunger strike. Grew overnight, Dana said. Chase calls it alignment with market. The market did not sign off. We will, Lila said, a promise and a threat. She opened the folder. Numbers behaved, behavior did not. Investors here, Caroline murmured as Mr. Reed took a seat at the fringe. He's been wandering the property like a ghost. Says he wants to feel the bones. They creak, Lila said. We'll owe them. Dinner performed its usual rituals, plates placed like choreography, wine poured like agreement. Conversation arced from expansion rumors to union negotiations to a new elderflower spritz nobody wanted but everyone pretended to find delightful. Lila ate without tasting, listened past words for weather, and let Chase's earlier performance loop in the back of her skull until the loop caught fire. When the plates cleared, she excused herself and took the service elevator to back of house. She found Andre in security watching a bank of screens where the hotel confessed its truth 24 ways. He stood as she entered, posture snapping to attention even though he didn't yet know who Elise Grant was. Evening, he said. Can I help you? You already are, Lila said, eyes on a feed of the front desk. Chase was there, the same smile, the same performance. Noor hovered, learning systems and resistance at the same time. You see everything? Lila asked. I see what the cameras can see, Andre said. The rest I hear in people's voices. What do you hear tonight? Pressure, he said. Worry pretending to be rules. Lila nodded. If a guest wanted to file a complaint without the front desk seeing it, could they? Andre considered her a touch more carefully now. They could with me. Would it go somewhere? Lila said. Or would it die politely? Andre's mouth did a movement like a shrug bowed its head. Depends who reads it. Let me read it, Lila said. For the next 72 hours. Andre held her gaze. In it, Lila saw a man who had pulled people from smoke and didn't do it for thanks. Yes, ma'am, he said, without needing to know the name on her passport. When she returned to the lobby, a scene had started that every hotel dreads because it makes the carpet feel like a witness. A family, 2 kids, 2 adults, a rolling suitcase with a missing wheel, stood at the desk with a confirmed reservation on a phone screen and 1,000 miles on their faces. Chase smiled the way rules smile when they want to be the hero of a story. We're at capacity, he said, louder than necessary. There's also a security hold on your profile from a previous stay. There isn't, the dad said, not pleading yet. We've never stayed here. Then your third-party processor sent the wrong. Noor stepped in, voice tuned to the frequency of dignity. Let me see the confirmation, sir. She glanced, typed, found the truth moving under the paper walls. They're guaranteed. We have 1623 clean. We can comp the roll away. Chase didn't look at the screen. He looked at the family, then at the lobby, then at the mirror that was a bar that was a camera. We can't bend for every booking error, he announced, to the room, to the world, to himself. Lila watched the kids wrap their arms around each other's backpacks like shields that didn't cover enough. Chase, Noor said, softly and bravely. It's not an error. Chase's smile broke. He reached under the desk and toggled something that shouldn't have been toggled. Guest risk flag, elevated, a category meant for actual incidents, now used as a moat. Lila's hand found the gold key charm in her pocket. It was cool, familiar, unnecessary. She didn't pull it out. Not yet. Mr. Mallory, she said, stepping forward, voice gentle as a hammer wrapped in silk. You will check them in. You will remove any flags. You will apologize for the delay. And you will do it because the policy you're invoking is a story you told yourself. Chase turned. His face went through countries. Who? I guess, Lila said. With a better memory than you want. He looked at Noor, at the lobby, at the couple he tried to reframe as a threat so he could be a hero. Our standards. Our people, Lila said. Noor slid 2 key cards onto the counter, hands steady. Welcome. Elevators are to your left. The family exhaled like a building does after an inspection. Chase's jaw flexed. He didn't argue with Lila because some parts of him understood argument would be a costume that ripped. Enjoy your stay, he told the family, and it almost sounded like he meant it. Lila let him have the exit. She let Noor have the thank you from the mom, the way small kindness makes the world remember itself. Then she walked to the bar and ordered water from the bartender, who didn't need language to know who was in charge of the room. Upstairs, she wrote in the notebook. Guest risk flag abused as leverage. Third-party blame script to dodge responsibility. Noor advocate. Keep. Train. Chase, consequence not yet chosen. Board dinner, numbers fine, ethics not. She drew a box around consequence. She left it empty. You don't fill a box like that while angry. You fill it when you can afford to be precise. As she closed the notebook, a message pinged from a private number. The bones creak. Curious what you'll do. R. Lila smiled without showing teeth. Oil them, she typed. Or replace them. She placed the key charm on top of the notebook and turned off the lamp. The city hummed outside like it knew who paid its light bill. Tomorrow, the hotel would learn who had walked through its door. Morning came in on little wheels, bell carts squeaking, coffee lids snapping, shoes whispering across marble. Lila dressed like any guest with a plan and joined the flow that makes a hotel breathe. She took the service corridor instead of the grand staircase, because truth tends to keep its back to the lobby. In the staff break room, a microwave hummed over a row of lunches labeled with names and hope. A corkboard held schedules that had been revised with the sharpest so many times the month looked like a crime scene. Rosa stood at the counter pouring coffee into a paper cup, wrist wrapped in a cloth bandage that said the job had its own voice. Long day? Lila asked. They're all long, Rosa said, then softened it. But it's honest. Honest is a good tired. A young man in maintenance, badge red Evan, ducked in for a bottle of water. Housekeeping elevator sticking again, he said to no one and everyone. Controller's overdue. Vendor says next week like it's a season. Rosa snorted. Vendor says whatever the invoice tells it to say. Which vendor? Lila asked, casual as weather. Prime Lift Solutions, Evan said. New contract. Supposed to be faster, cheaper. It's faster at invoicing. Do you see them much? Lila asked. See the bills? Evan said. See the truck. See the same elevator still sighing like a smoker. Rosa passed Lila a second coffee. You look like a person who drinks two and pretends it's one. You read a lot from hands, Lila said. From hands, from feet, from who's holding a mop when they shouldn't have to, Rosa said. We're short today. They gave me 6 checkouts and 4 stayovers. We'll make it, but the corners will argue. Who sets the boards? Lila asked. Front office feeds it, Rosa said. Chase blesses it. Blessing looks like make the numbers sing. Songs don't fold sheets. Noor slipped in with a yogurt and a notebook full of careful handwriting. She saw Lila and startled at the coincidence of the world being small. Hi, she said, half whisper, half delight. Ms. Grant. You had the city view, right? It had character, Lila said. How long have you been here? 2 weeks today, Noor said. I like it. Mostly. People are people. I want to get good at this. Who trained you? Lila asked. Chase, Noor said, then rushed to be fair. And May on overnights. May's great. She knows the system without letting it take her brain. What system? Lila asked. PMS, Noor said, grinning at the acronym. Property Management System. Adenix. It has a guest risk flag field. We're supposed to use it when security files an incident. Last night I saw one applied and then removed. Twice. Which guest? Lila asked. Noor looked at Rosa. Rosa looked at the floor. There are truths you don't leave lying around. Don't get yourself in the middle, Lila said gently. Get good. That's how you help the most people and keep your job at the same time. Noor nodded like someone promised a thing could be done without breaking. Lila finished the coffee and took the service stairs up to the manager on duty office. The door was ajar. Inside, Chase was performing excellence at a mirror that happened to be a laptop screen. He was on a call with someone whose voice came through the tinny speaker like an accusation. I'm telling you, ADR is up 11%. Chase said. RevPAR is trending positive. We're aligned with comp set. The resort fee changes are negligible. Guests don't mind if you smile. A pause. The voice on the other end said something Lila couldn't make out. Yes, Chase said quickly. We walk them to sister properties if we have to. We pick the ones who fit the brand. It's better for the experience. He clicked, ended the call, and looked up to find Lila framed by the door. Oh, he said, surprise sharpening into something less polite. You can't be in here. Good morning, Lila said. I have a question about your deposit policy. Chase's smile found its teeth. You still on that? I'm on whatever my bill says I'm on, Lila said smoothly. And it says I'm on a resort fee that didn't exist last quarter. Alignment, Chase said as if the word could dress itself. We're moving up market. Guests appreciate consistency. Consistency is not charging more for the same thing, Lila said. Consistency is charging fairly and doing what you say you'll do. Ms. Grant, he said, posture leaning into the title as if he'd earned it. With respect, our brand standards do not include gatekeeping, Lila said, or manipulating risk flags to manage optics in the lobby. Chase's eyes flicked. I don't know what you think you saw. I saw enough to know you're more afraid of the wrong people feeling comfortable than of the right people being turned away, Lila said softly. He stood, as if height could be led. If you have a complaint, file it with security. I will, Lila said. Thank you for the advice. Outside the office, she sent Dana a message. Pull the vendor log for prime lift and linens. Look for kickbacks or sudden rate hikes. Also, who approved the resort fee at the flagship? Dana, not me. Board didn't vote. Smells like pilot by stealth. Find the paperwork that thinks it's a spine, Lila wrote. And send me a sanitized STR comp set report for the last 6 months. If we're aligning, I want to see who we think we're singing with. She put her phone away and walked the floor, the way good GMs do and great owners don't forget to. She breathed the hallways. Room doors speak if you ask them. She listened. At 1013, a door hung open with a service-needed tag. A vacuum leaned like a tired soldier. Lila peeked in. A housekeeper, Marisol, stood on a step stool replacing a bulb. Need a hand? Lila asked. Marisol looked down, surprised into a smile. Only if you have one that reaches more than mine. Lila steadied the stool with 2 fingers. How many rooms? 8, Marisol said. 9 if they want miracles. You ever get told to mark a scuff as guest damage? Lila asked. Marisol rolled her eyes like a prayer wheel. Every week. I mark what is true. Mostly, Lila repeated, hearing Rosa's voice. If the desk asks what happens, I call Rosa, Marisol said. She tells them the mop is mightier than the memo. Lila laughed. I like Rosa. Everyone likes Rosa, Marisol said. Even the towels. Back downstairs, the morning stand-up gathered near the staff entrance. Front desk, housekeeping, security, bell, fan B. 15 minutes of information held together with tape and hope. Chase ran it like a sermon for metrics. High occupancy, limited inventory, VIP shadow visit rumored, he said. Smiles up, comps down. No walk-ins above bar unless cleared. Third-party bookings get cash deposits if zip code local or no luggage. We're not a bus station. The line made a few people chuckle in the way you chuckle when your rent depends on it. Noor didn't laugh. Andre didn't either. Andre raised a hand. If security hasn't filed an incident, no risk flags, he said, voice steady. We don't pre-punish people because they're traveling light. Chase's smile found bones. We're managing the experience, Andre. You manage incidents. Let's all stay in our lanes. Noor glanced at Lila, then quickly away. Lila was just a guest with a good memory. She let the meeting finish itself. At the bell stand, a veteran named Lou polished brass that would never be clean and made peace with that. Lila asked for a paper map, and he produced one with practiced hands. "You want food that tastes like someone cooked it for someone they love," he said, circling a spot 2 blocks over. "Don't tell the chef I said that." "I won't," Lila said. "What do you do when folks get walked?" Lou sighed. "I walk with them," he said. "Put them in a car, get them a voucher, tell them a truth nicer than the one they were given." "Do you ever walk the wrong folks?" Lila asked. Lou took a beat. "We walk the ones who can't argue loud or clean," he said. "That's the wrong folks." "Thank you," Lila said. She spent the next hour being the kind of guest who leaves a trail for herself. She called the front desk from a payphone at the corner and asked about a walk-in with a debit card. "Cash deposit," the agent said, reading the new scripture. She called again 5 minutes later and used an older, curt tone, dropping the title of a local law firm and the name of a board member she knew hadn't checked in yet. "Of course, Ms. We can accommodate you without a deposit." She wrote down the difference. Bias rarely needs a face if the script has a shape. Back in 1421, Dana had sent a packet to Lila's secure inbox. The STR report from the last 6 months showed what Lila suspected. Their comp set had crept upward by name, not by value. They'd started comparing themselves to properties that had spa floors and rooftop pools and a Michelin-star temptation downstairs. This hotel had good bones, great staff, and a lobby that could make anyone stand straighter. But the math didn't justify the swagger. The vendor log showed PrimeLift invoicing twice for the same controller under 2 SKUs. Emergency call, and after-hours consult. The linen contract had shifted to a firm called Bright White Services, and the rates spiked 30% with a note. Referral bonus. Lila didn't need to see the shell company paperwork to know which pockets had been padded. She made notes like a person collecting rain with buckets. Her phone buzzed with a text from Caroline. "Investor wants to see back of house before dinner. He's thorough." "So am I," Lila wrote back. "He'll get a show." She took the elevator to the ballroom level, where events make their own weather. Staff hustled between a corporate luncheon and a wedding rehearsal. A sign at the conference room read "Leadership Offsite" in a font that tried very hard. Inside, Chase stood at the head of a U-shape of tables addressing an audience of supervisors who wore exhaustion like a uniform. "Numbers are good," he said, beaming their goodness into existence. "But we need to be more discerning at the desk. Our brand depends on who feels at home. If you have to say policy 5 times to make someone understand, say it 6. A hand lifted. It was May, overnight front desk, the kind of person who keeps a building from learning regret. "What do we do when policy is wrong?" she asked. Chase blinked like a photo being taken at the wrong time. "Policy is policy." May's face didn't move. "That's not a sentence," she said softly. Someone stifled a laugh. The room became a surface you could skate on, slick with fear and almost joy. "Thank you, May," Chase said, flustered generosity. "We'll circle back." He ended the session with a slide about guest profiles and a graphic that looked like a fence pretending to be a rainbow. Lila slipped out before he could spot her watching him through the two-way glass of outcomes. She found Andre in the security office again. "I'd like to see the anonymous complaint box," she said. Andre opened a locked drawer, removed a metal tin like a church plate with a lid. Inside, a handful of forms sat with the specific sadness of things written by people who didn't expect to be read. Lila sifted gently. Denied check-in despite guarantee. Cash deposit changed between calls. Housekeeping asked to mark where as damage. Night auditor recoded a comp to a guest damage to hit target. "Who sees these?" she asked. "I do," Andre said. "Then I forward to guest recovery. Sometimes they recover. Sometimes they recover us. Starting today, they forward to Dana," Lila said. "Ask her to set up a blind alias. Everything routes there until further notice." Andre nodded. "You're not an average guest," he said. "No," Lila said. "But average guests deserve a better hotel." The afternoon swelled. A convention trickled in, lanyards, tote bags, the faint smell of new flyers. The lobby became a river. Noor moved like a person who had learned where the current was strongest. She needed a jam into flow. A system outage light blinked amber at the PMS station, and she began handwriting slips with a speed that looked like grace. She apologized without offering guilt. She offered water without owing anyone a debt. Lila stepped to the corner of the desk where a printout sat half hidden. The header read Guess Risk Flag, Criteria. She took it with 2 fingers, eyes scanning. Local zip codes, manual review. No luggage, verify payment, deposit. Third-party bookings, deposit at discretion. Corporate rate without ID, deny. Previous disputes, flag. At the bottom, a handwritten addition. Groups that attract incidents, use judgment. The word group sat on the page like a snake that thought it was a rope. Noor saw her reading and swallowed. I didn't write that, she said quickly. I know, Lila said. Do you use it? I use policy when it makes sense, Noor said. I use people the rest of the time. Keep doing that, Lila said. Chase spotted the paper between Lila's fingers and moved fast, a hand out. That's internal. So is the heart, Lila said, folding the paper once, then again, and sliding it into her folio. Try not to misplace either. He breathed through his nose. I don't know what you think you're doing. Checking in? Lila said. Isn't that what guests do? By early evening, the investor had taken his quiet tour, eyes touching everything without leaving fingerprints. He stood by the lobby's art piece like a man deciding whether a painting was lying. Bones creak, he murmured when Lila wandered near. They've been carrying the wrong weight, Lila said. He looked at her. Recognition passed between them like 2 ships flashing their IDs without announcing them. He said nothing else, and it meant he'd said a lot. The dinner crowd started dressing the lobby in different money. The bar woke up. A bachelor party considered being a problem, and then decided to be one later. A family with matching teas checked in, eyes bright at a trip they'd saved for. Noor gave the kids a small map with stickers. The kids put the stickers on each other and called it planning. At 7:42, a woman in scrubs walked in with a rolling case that had taped corners and courage. Checking in, she said at the desk, voice frayed with overtime. Hospital rate. Chase took one look and exhaled dismissal before the keyboard did. We're fully committed, he said. The hospital rate is yield managed. It's Thursday, the woman said. I've been coming for months. I made the reservation yesterday. We can move you to our airport property, he said, already writing the address on a card. It's more appropriate. Noor's hands were already typing. We have 1217, she said softly. Standard. Hospital rate applies. Chase didn't look. We're aligned, he said to himself, to his numbers, to the sky. We're not a bus station. Lila stepped forward. You're not a wall either, she said. 1217 sounds right. Chase turned, irritation bright as a badge. Ms. Grant, you've taken a very personal interest in our process. I like hotels, Lila said. And people. What do you do? He asked, pushing. When people make it hard to run a hotel? Make the hotel easier to run, Lila said. Not the people harder to be. He stared, as if she'd rearranged the furniture of his head without asking permission. Noor slid the keys to the woman in scrubs. Elevator's right there, she said. Thank you for what you do. There's coffee in the lobby at 6. The woman blinked like she hadn't been seen in a lobby for a long time. Thank you, she said to Noor to the room. At 9:03, Dana texted, found the resort fee memo. It's a pilot. Signed by C. Mallory as acting FOM. Countersigned by vendor relations referencing, market alignment, and incremental revenue targets. No board approval. No GM signature. Also, Prime Lift paid in, advisory, fee to a consulting LLC registered last quarter at AP. Box that shares a roof with a luxury pet spa. Guess the managing member. Lila, guessing is for people who don't have cameras. Pull what you can, Freeze any discretionary payouts pending GM review. Quietly. Dana, consider it frozen. At 9:30, the night auditor arrived, a thin man named Theo who had the alert calm of someone who had seen the lobby at its most honest. He greeted Noor with a fist bump and Chase with a nod that had a stop sign built in. "Big day?" he asked. "Big," Noor said. "Bigger tomorrow," Theo said, looking at the convention badge river. "Hope your shoes forgive you." At 10:12, a couple rolled in, wedding clothes askew, laughter like it had survived a storm. They'd missed check-in. Their third-party reservation held barely. Theo handled it with surgical calm. "Welcome," he said. "We're past the noise." Chase hovered, ready to invent a reason to be necessary. Theo didn't give him one. Lila stood by the lobby column, a shadow with a notebook. She felt the hotel learning itself in real time, who it was when it wasn't performing for a press release. She made a choice, the kind that feels like a sword and a hug at the same time. 72 hours, she told herself. Audit. Correct. Reveal. Upstairs, she wrote. Prime lift double bills. Bright white kickback. Resort fee, pilot, unauthorized. Guest risk criteria equals bias in policy clothing. Walk practice targets the quiet, comp practice flatters the loud. Allies, Noor, Rosa, Andre, May, Theo, Lou. Levers, board, investor, CFO, press if necessary. Tomorrow, mystery booking with local zip, wheelchair access test, late checkout integrity, refund process. Consequence earned. Her phone pinged. A new email, anonymous, from the security alias Andre had stood up, subject. The stairs no one sees. It detailed how Chase had been steering vendor choices to companies that buy dinners they later call advisory sessions, and how he had begun using guest risk as a quota to pad his incident management KPI. Lila closed the email and sat very still, the way you sit when the truth confirms itself so obviously it feels like déjà vu. She looked out at the alley, at the stubborn vine that had decided brick was just a suggestion. Her hand found the gold key charm on the folio. She held it, cool and specific. Tomorrow, keys would turn. Tonight the plan slept. Downstairs, the lobby's music lowered to a hum. Noor handed Theo a neat stack of notes, and a smile that could run a country. Chase left at 11 o'clock on the dot, tie still tight, face rehearsing a victory he hadn't won. In the service corridor, Andre checked the cameras one more time before handing the chair to the overnight. On a monitor, he watched Lila, who he knew only as Elise, pause at the guest satisfaction screen, the one guests never touched because it asked for feelings when people were late for elevators. She pressed, "How was your arrival?" and typed, "It was honest enough to measure." Andre smiled to himself, a man who liked numbers that didn't lie. He didn't know her name. Not yet. He didn't need to. He knew the shape of what was coming. On 14, Lila turned off the lamp and the city kept its end of the bargain, staying lit. On the desk, the notebook lay open to a page labeled Tomorrow. The pen weighted like a baton. The hotel slept like a building that wasn't sure it had a morning coming. Morning put a clean shirt on the lobby and tried to make yesterday forget itself. Lila watched the sun come down the atrium glass like a careful waiter. She had a list, a pen that liked lists, and 72 hours that were sharpening into 71. She started with breakfast, the most honest meal a hotel serves. Staff were outnumbered by needs but kept moving. A kid in dinosaur pajamas negotiated syrup like a treaty. Noor, off desk for 10 minutes, ferried extra napkins with a grace that had already learned triage. A man rolled in with a travel wheelchair and a smile that asked very little. He carried a certificate from the convention upstairs and the kind of fatigue you can't see unless you've had to. Lila stood, halfway to her feet before the lobby knew there was a test in it. "Checking out the accessible paths?" Lila asked, quiet. "Checking in, actually," he said. "My niece is showing her project today. She built a robot that can climb stairs better than I can." He laughed and didn't make it heavy. "I called last week. They said no problem." Noor reached the desk first. "Sir, welcome. Name?" He gave it. She found it. She smiled like relief on purpose. We have you, Mr. Brown. One king, accessible, roll-in shower. You're early, but the room is clean. Chase slid into the space where good things happened to cut them in half. We're full on accessible inventory, he announced, a phrase that wanted to be neutral and wasn't. We can move you to a standard and send a bench. Noor's eyes darted to her screen. 1424 is accessible and released, Chase. 1424 is blocked, he said. For a VIP. The law is the VIP, Noor said before she could stop herself. Chase's smile went thin. We are managing yield, Noor. Yield doesn't climb stairs, Lila said, still 2 steps away, still just a guest with good diction. Chase ignored her. He turned the smile on Mr. Brown. We'll accommodate you at our airport property and cover the... Mr. Brown folded his hands. I made the reservation, he said evenly. You can keep your bench. Andre approached with a calm that had saved lives. We have 1424, Mallory. It's clean. If the VIP needs it, we'll switch later. Chase inhaled to perform an argument. Lila blinked once at Andre, permission disguised as gratitude. Andre did not blink back. He moved. Mr. Brown, he said. This way. He looked to Noor. 2 keys. Noor printed them, her hands steady enough to be named a metric. Welcome, she said. Elevators are right there. If you need anything adjusted, call and ask for Noor. Chase stood between his script and the world that kept refusing to memorize it. He looked at Lila and saw nothing he liked. You seem to be in the middle of many things, Ms. Grant. I like hotels, Lila said. And laws. He held her gaze a second too long, then peeled himself away like a sticker that knows it has lost its wall. At the breakfast line, Rosa refilled coffee with a bandaged wrist that had chosen not to admit pain in public. Lila intercepted her gently. How's the schedule? Lila asked. Like a quilt with missing squares, Rosa said. We cover. We cover until we don't. Supplies? Lila asked. Rosa tilted her head toward the service door. Come see. The linen room smelled like bleach and hot air pretending to be clean. Shelves sagged with bags stamped bright white services in a font that advertised a lie before the product could. Rosa pulled a sheet from a bale and rubbed it between finger and thumb. They promised softer, cheaper, whiter, she said. They delivered more starch and a rash. She touched her wrist like a confession. We have to wash twice on busy nights if we don't want the pillowcases to cut people. Who signed the contract? Lila asked. Front office blesses, Rosa said. Someone in vendor relations lights the candle. Lila folded the sheet back like a document. In the corridor, she met Evan from maintenance bent under a panel, cursing softly in a language made of bolts. Prime lift scheduled? Lila asked. Evan laughed a single syllable. Scheduled for next week. Like last week. Elevator 13 still thinks 5 is a suggestion. Ever see them fix anything that stays fixed? Lila asked. Evan touched the panel with respect you give a broken thing that has been honest about being broken. I see them, Bill. She thanked him, then slipped out a side door to make calls from a phone booth the hotel hadn't gotten around to making vintage yet. Experiment time. She ran the mystery booking script she'd written to test the deposit policy. Call as a local zip, cash only, no luggage. Policy requires cash deposit. Call as a corporate counsel, curt, drop a board name. We can waive the deposit. Call as a nurse on break, soft voice, hospital rate. We're fully committed. Call as a frequent guest with points and a last name that buys small towns. Of course, we'll upgrade you. She wrote the responses down, the differences speaking louder than any lobby sermon. Bias didn't always wear a face. Sometimes it wore tone. She took the service elevator to back of house and found Theo, eyes clear after a night that had done its best to blur him. Ever get told to recode a comp to a damage? Lila asked. Theo nodded like a man who made a different mistake years ago, and had been careful since. Once, he said. I didn't. I wrote a note. The note got rewritten while I was on break. By who? Lila asked. Theo's mouth tried not to say a name and failed politely. By someone looking for KPI sugar. Keep copies? Lila said. Of everything. He tapped his temple. I keep them here. And there. He slid a small notebook from his pocket. It was full. Back at the desk, Noon shifted toward busy. A man in a linen suit with an accent you couldn't insult without geography approached, complaint warmed in his hands. I booked a river view, he said to Noor. You gave me the on the roof of the kitchen view. I can move you to 1520, Noor said, fingers moving. Same rate. It just came clean. Chase stepped in. 1,520 is empty, Noor said, bolder than yesterday. And he has the rate. The man blinked, then smiled. You are new, he said. Don't change. Lila watched Noor learn how to be a hinge. At 11:07, Dana slipped into the lobby like a rumor in heels. She handed Lila a folder bound with a clip that had feelings. PrimeLift has a shell, she said. It pays a consulting LLC registered to, guess who, Chase Mallory. Bright White has a referral bonus to the same mailbox. And the resort fee memo cites a pilot under the acting FOM's authority. The FOM is not a sovereign nation, Lila said. Freeze discretionary disbursements. Quietly. Already done, Dana said. Also, an email from Caroline, investor is sniffing. He says the lobby smells like numbers trying to be music. Lila smiled. He has ears. A push notification buzzed on the lobby display, convention registration overflow. The river became a flood. This is where hotels earn their stars, not in the brochure, but in the moment someone needs a room and a human breath at the same time. A mother with 2 kids and a garment bag approached, wild-eyed but polite. We're checking in, she told Noor. We've got the confirmation. We're late to Hare and I. Got you, Noor said. She printed, nodded, handed keys, mapped the elevator, and at the end slipped a pair of bottled waters across with a look that said, I know this day. Chase watched Noor when people like coins dropped into a fountain and made a face like someone counting costs that weren't his. At noon, Lila ate a salad like you eat medicine, because the day asked for fuel without drama. She took the service corridor back towards security to check the complaint alias Andre had installed. A new one waited with a subject line that announced itself. Hospital rate plus deposit plus no luggage equals no bed. Inside details. A nurse turned away last week after a double shift because she came in scrubs, hands empty, eyes too tired to perform solvency. The note was written in slow, angry handwriting, signed May, who had turned anger into ink because she still believed you could file a form and not have it disappear. Lila looked up at the monitors and saw the lobby from above. People moved through as if the building were a lung. She felt the hotel in her chest. She felt the rot like dust you only see when the sun decides. Her phone vibrated. Caroline, investor at the bar, listening to guests talk. Board dinner moved to 7 o'clock. You coming as Elise or Lila? Elise until it matters, Lila replied. Then Lila. Afternoon brought vendors. A man in a PrimeLift polo ambled through the service hall with a clipboard and a grin that had sold more invoices than repairs. Evan met him with paperwork. Lila stopped, just out of his line of sight, and listened the way walls listen. Need that after-hours consult on the log, the tech said. Boss likes the codes tidy. I'll, get your lunch later. Get the elevator, Evan said, not unkind but not failing to score. The elevator is the thing to get. The tech chuckled like friendship could fix gravity, and went to pretend to fix a machine that had learned to expect pretending. Back at the desk, a man argued without raising his voice. You lost my package, he said to Chase. It's time sensitive. Chase pointed at a laminate that said not responsible in 7 languages. We can't be liable for third party. Unless it's a wine crate for a VIP, Noor murmured. What? Chase snapped. Nothing, Noor said. But the word hung there, an admission the laminate did not cover. At 3:17, Lila sat in the lobby bar again, club soda in a glass that did its best. Mr. Reed sat 2 stools down, pretending to read emails. You fixing the bones? He asked without looking up. I am finding the termites, Lila said. He made a noise like respect. People underestimate wood when it's polished, he said. And overestimate people when they're smiling, she said. He tipped an invisible hat. You're going to show them? When the room is ready, Lila said. The room got ready at 4:06. A family arrived with suitcases bruised by the road. 2 teens, one carrying a violin case like a passport. A mother with the set of someone who has kept things together for longer than anyone clapping knows. A father who had the look of a man who has apologized to hotel desks more than he should. We have a guaranteed reservation, the mother said at the desk, confirmation open, voice choosing dignity over fear. Chase read the screen like it insulted him. We're at capacity, he said loudly enough to make the lobby think it was involved. Also, I'm seeing a flag on your profile from. You aren't, the father said. We've never stayed here. Noor leaned over, fast and soft. It's guaranteed, Chase. We have 12:20 clean. We are aligned, Chase intoned. We do not bend for third-party errors. It's not an error, Noor said. He reached below the desk and toggled a switch he had not been assigned, a guess-risk move that would later read like a confession. Security. He said it into an earpiece, not loudly, but high enough on the dog whistle for half the lobby to look. Andre's voice came back, and Lila heard a tone in it that would make a lesser man swallow a whistle. I'm at the desk. The reservation is valid. We're checking them in. A bystander near the ficus raised a phone, hit record, the temple bell of our age. Lila made a decision she had been saving for a better time, and then a better time decided not to exist. She walked into the space between the desk and the family, an empty pocket designed for reveal. Mr. Mallory, she said quietly, you will check this family in to 12:20. You will remove the flag you placed. You will apologize, and you will mean it. He straightened, as if posture could appeal. Who are you two? Lila Adair, she said, not loud, not dramatic, just correct. I own the building you're standing in. Silence hit the marble like rain on a hot road, steam without thunder. Chase's face went through a century. Noor's eyes widened and then did something like gratitude and terror holding hands. Rosa, arriving with a cart like a chariot for pillows, froze and then smiled into her sleeve. Andre did not move. He had been acting as if she owned the building since yesterday. The phone over by the ficus kept recording. Mr. Reed at the bar lowered his glass half an inch and looked at the ceiling like a man who loved theater when it didn't lie. Chase tried a laugh that belonged to someone else. Ms. Adair, he said. Of course, this is a misunderstanding. Your misunderstandings have memos, Lila said. Keys. Now. Noor slid 12:20 across the marble like a violin bow on the right string. Welcome, she told the mother. Elevators are to your left. If you need water, it's on the house. The mother nodded once, the kind of nod that keeps your face and your day. The family moved toward the elevators like a door had been removed from a hallway. Chase tidied his smile into contrition. We're very proud of our standards. Your standards walked a nurse to the airport and tried to walk a wheelchair to a bench, Lila said. We will discuss your pride. Not here. The video near the ficus found its chorus online. Lila felt the tide change not in the lobby but in her pocket, the phone humming the way cities hum when a story makes them remember what they are. Her screen lit, Dana, it's trending. Tag, hashtag Adair at her own hotel. I can keep it calm if we publish fast and dull. Caroline, city's consumer affairs has eyes. Expect inspectors tomorrow a.m. Investor says he's never been so entertained by governance. Valerie? That's from prior story, ignore. Here different stakeholders. Lila looked at Andre. Pull the last 90 days of risk flags, she said. Break them by origin, who set them, for what, and how often they get lifted. Send to Dana. Andre nodded. On it. She looked at Noor. Take 15 minutes, she said. Drink water. Then come back and keep doing what you just did. Noor swallowed. There are cries you learn not to let pass your eyes when your paycheck is in the room. Yes, ma'am. She turned to Chase. Office, she said. He led the way to the manager on duty office because his feet understood consequence before his mouth had time to argue. She closed the door behind them and let the room remember what doors are for. You added a resort fee without approval, she said. You steered vendors for kickbacks. You abused risk flags to shape the lobby you wanted to see. You walked the quiet and comped the loud. You misused policy to punish and numbers to hide it. You did all of this with a smile that practiced in the mirror and never once reflected. He blanched. Everyone does it, he said. They don't, Lila said. They don't when I pay them. I deliver ADR and RevPAR, he said weakly, clutching acronyms like certificates of baptism. You deliver damage, she said. And you hand it to my people to clean. He tried a last angle. You can't fire me in a lawsuit of a lobby. I'm not firing you, Lila said. Yet. I am suspending you with pay pending an audit. You will give Andre your credentials. You will not touch a memo. You will write no emails. You will leave the building through the service entrance you forgot exists. He swallowed the word yet as if it were a bone. You can't. I can, she said. I just did. He stood, knocked his chair a degree too loudly, and left with dignity that had lost the fight with gravity. He brushed past Andre in the hall like a man who had never executed a safe pass. Andre handed Lila a small envelope. Complaint alias has a dozen more messages since noon, he said. One is from Vendor Relations, Anonymous. Says there's a kickback chain. Says they'll talk if they aren't in the report. Give them amnesty for truth, Lila said. And this afternoon, security runs the floor with me. Quietly. She stepped back into the lobby. The room looked different, not because the chandelier had changed, but because authority had stopped pretending to be marble. Mr. Reed lifted his glass. Bones, he said. Oiled. Not yet, Lila said. But the can is open. The convention delegates flowed. The bar mauled. The algorithm outside continued to breathe fire for a while and then, bored by competence, wandered off to find someone lying. Lila would not feed it. She fed the dashboard of her mind instead, risk flags by origin, deposit demands by voice, comp spend by profile, vendor overages by invoice month. Evening scraped its chair nearer. Rosa finished her board with corners tucked like arguments. Noor returned to the desk with eyes that had decided to stay. Theo texted from home. Audit trail ready if you need a night map. Evans sent a photo of elevator 13 with a post-it. Still a liar. Dana messaged. Inspectors 8 a.m. I'll be in the lobby with a coffee and a copy of the law. Caroline. Board dinner at 7. Ready to hear Elise sing as Lila. Lila went upstairs, washed her hands like a ritual, and changed into a suit that remembered how to be kind and sharp in the same hour. She put the gold key charm in her pocket, not as a performance, but as a promise to herself. Doors. Downstairs, the board dinner table gathered itself. Caroline smiled in a way that made age a feature. Dana placed a folder that was less a dossier and more a future. Mr. Reed took a seat close enough to watch. You have our attention, Caroline said. You'll have our outcomes, Lila said. Tomorrow at 8 we host inspectors. Tonight we host a mirror. She laid out the audit so far, the deposit games, the risk flag abuse, the vendor kickbacks, the resort fee fiction, the walk pattern that targeted quiet guests. She named names sparingly and behaviors precisely. She spoke of Noor and Rosa and Andre, the bones that did not creak because they were busy being spine. Caroline listened like a woman who had once learned to share power by losing it. What do you need? she asked. Authority to suspend, Lila said. Budget to retrain. Whistleblower protection that reaches past HR. Transparency, not performative. Aggregated outcomes, not excuses. And a public apology that is specific and dull. Specific and dull. Caroline repeated, pleased. The two most trustworthy adjectives. Investors hate dull. Someone said euphemistically, looking at Mr. Reed. I love dividends, Mr. Reed said. And buildings that don't rot. Caroline nodded. Done, she said. Thank you, Lila said. She stood. I have a hotel to run. They let her go the way a good board lets a good owner do the job they hired her to invent. Out in the lobby, the night had put on its velvet again. Noor checked in a couple that called each other, we more than I. Lou walked guest to a car with a voucher and a story about how sometimes the airport property has better waffles. Andre stood by the column where fiction had tried to be policy and failed in public. Tomorrow? Andre asked. Inspectors at 8. Lila said. Pull logs, tidy truth, teach the floor to breathe. Copy, Andre said. Lila looked up at the chandelier, 3 degrees warmer to flatter skin. She smiled at the idea that light could be designed to know who it was flattering. She went to the guest satisfaction screen, the one nobody touched. She pressed, How was your arrival? And typed. It was measured. Upstairs, she wrote in the notebook. Suspension chase. Hold vendor payments. Inspectors prep documents, accessible inventory, training logs. Publish, method, internal memo, in the morning, public apology after inspection. Protect, Noor, Rosa, Andre, May, Theo, Lou. Consequence earned. Redemption possible, not owed. She turned off the lamp. The alley vine outside insisted on green in a place that had not invited it, which is how vines win and how people do too. The hotel did not sleep, but it rested with the air of a building that had decided to have a morning after all. Inspectors wear 2 kinds of shoes, the kind that make noise on purpose and the kind that don't. At 8 a.m., both kinds crossed the marble. A woman with a binder and patient eyes introduced herself first. Jasmine Ortiz, City Consumer Affairs, she said. Beside her, a man in a navy windbreaker flashed a badge like punctuation. Leon Wang, Accessibility Compliance. A third arrived moments later, khakis, blue polo, the scent of coffee and credibility. Marcus Hill, Fire Prevention. Lila met them in the lobby with a folder that had nothing to hide and a face that didn't need to raise its voice. Dana stood at her shoulder, already 2 steps ahead of any form that thought it was clever. Morning, Lila said. We've prepared documents, pulled logs, and cleared time on the floor. You'll have what you need and what you didn't know to ask for. Jasmine smiled. We appreciate boring. Boring is our love language, Dana said, handing over a packet labeled Process and Outcomes. The lobby moved around them like weather deciding to behave. Noor worked the desk with Theo shadowing for the handoff. Rosa's crew had split the housekeeping board in a way that made corners surrender. Andre hovered at the periphery, not imposing, just present, the way safety should feel. Lila began with the turn nobody gives guests because guests think magic is real. Back of house first, the laundry's heat, the heartbeat of the service elevator, the narrow corridor where staff lunches dream of being eaten warm. Elevator 13? Leon asked, eyeing the inspection sticker that had been renewed on time but not in spirit. Sticks at 5. Evan said from a panel, honesty in a shirt with grease like epaulets. Vendor says next week the way some people say later. Logs? Leon asked. Here, Lila said, sliding a tablet to him. Service calls, response times, repeat failures, duplicate codes. If numbers could sigh, these did. Leon said, which is inspector for I will remember this. In laundry, Jasmine touched a stack of bright white pillowcases and frowned like a mother who knew better than the label. Skin reactions reported? She asked. Rosa lifted her bandage with a face that joked before it cried. We call it the bright white handshake. Contract? Jasmine asked. Dana. Attached with rate history. Increase at Q2. Note the line labeled referral bonus. She didn't smirk. She didn't have to. Marcus ran fingers along a wall where someone had hurried a patch job. Sprinkler heads in ballroom level. Who maintains? Aqua Sentinel, Andre said. Inspections passed last quarter, but we logged water pressure dips on the night audit. Logs? Marcus asked. Pulled, Lila said. They returned to the lobby, where Noor was handling a guest with a polite complaint about noise from a convention setup. She offered earplugs, a room switch, and a sincere apology in 3 sentences that did not ask for forgiveness as payment. Jasmine noticed and wrote a note with a small smile. At a table set off to the side, Lila placed the risk flag analysis like a confession written in math. 90 days. Origin, reason, resolution, she said. Half were lifted within 2 hours. Patterns align with walk and cash deposit demands. Jasmine scanned, pen pausing over the line that mattered. Local zip/no luggage is not equal to incident. And the author of most of these? She asked. Suspended pending audit, Lila said. Which brings us to policy correction. Dana slid a 1-page memo across the table. Immediate policy changes. Guest screening and deposits. Bulleted. Plain. Dull. The ink equivalent of a leveled bubble. Effective immediately, Lila said. No cash-only deposits. No use of risk flags absent a filed incident by security. No denial of hospital rate for yield. Accessible inventory is not a suggestion. Walk rules prioritize vulnerability, not convenience. We will publish a public summary by end of day. Leon nodded once, the kind of nod that becomes a line on a report called good faith action. Please don't burn your staff in the process, Jasmine said, almost as a wish. Systems coerce bad behavior. Agreed, Lila said. But people chose to. We'll separate the two. They moved to front of house. Leon checked counter heights, path widths, door pressures. He appreciated hinges that had been oiled and noticed the one that hadn't. Marcus quizzed Andre on the evacuation plan and saw that Andre answered without memorizing. He'd drilled it until it lived in his bones. Mr. Reed sat at the bar, reading the city through his glass and listening without interrupting. Caroline arrived quietly, took a chair in the corner, and let her presence be permission, not pressure. At 10, a small knot formed at the desk. A wheelchair rugby team in town for the convention, half laughing, half feral with travel. Noor had stacked their rooms properly, adjacent, accessible, fridge requests already noted. Leon observed with the gaze of a man who knew the difference between box-checking and respect. He watched Noor angle the desk screen so the team captain could see the assignments. He watched Andre step in only to move a stanchion that made the path mean. He watched Rosa sweep by with extra towels without performing charity. This, he said to Lila, is what you want in a brochure. He did not mean it as marketing. We'll put it in the training, Lila said. Before noon, Jasmine asked to see the complaints pipeline. Andre displayed the anonymous alias inbox. Messages had multiplied since yesterday. Nurse turned away last week. Scrubs counted as not a guest. May. Night audit. Pressure to recode comps as damage. Theo. Vendor lunches equals codes added. Anonymous. Likely vendor relations. Deposit rules change with tone. Front desk agent who did not sign, but Lila recognized the hand that wrote like Noor's nerves used to feel. Jasmine read each, then looked at Lila. You're publishing? Aggregation and outcomes privacy preserved, Lila said. No names. Methods and changes. We'll also publish how to complain without being punished for complaining. Make the link hard to lose, Jasmine said. Dana lifted her phone. Hard link to receipts, post-stay emails, and the lobby screen, she said. We start where people actually are. At noon, the inspection paused for lunch. Lila refused a quiet room and ate standing at back bar, listening to the hotel breathe. Noor took 10 minutes because Lila ordered her to. Rosa stretched one hand and then the other like a prayer for wrists. Evan drank water like elevators depended on it. They did. Afternoon push, Andre said, scanning the flow with a bouncer's love of peace. Convention keynote at 2, breakout at 3, check-in stacked from 4. Lila nodded. We're good if the building is good. Buildings get jealous when you say that out loud, Marcus said, returning, a joke in his mouth and a worry in his eyes. Your fire pump. The pressure dips show up around high-demand windows. I want to pressure test this afternoon. Quietly. Do it, Lila said. Tell me if the pipes are honest. He left with a radio and purpose. At 1:40, vendor relations arrived in human form. Sonia Greer, polished, efficient, carrying a tablet like a license. She made beeline for Lila with a smile that mistook itself for diplomacy. I heard about the freeze, Sonia said softly. We have SLAs. Some payments are time-sensitive. We won't stiff the honest, Lila said. We will stop the clever. Sonia scanned the lobby, lowered her voice. The Prime Lift account is delicate. Their COO is close with our former GM. Freezing could cause service interruptions. We already have service interruptions, Lila said. The difference is I'll own these. Sonia's eyes cooled. And bright white? Rebid after inspection, Lila said. Include staff dermatology notes in the RFP. If a vendor can't handle human skin, they can handle their invoice elsewhere. Sonia's phone buzzed. She glanced, blinked, pocketed it. Understood, she said, but the word had edges. At 2:05, Lila posted the internal memo, policy corrections, suspension formalities, vendor freeze under audit, anonymous reporting line. She pressed send and felt the building receive it, an email chime like sleet, then a hush. 10 seconds later, the public statement went up on the hotel's site. We are correcting policy. Here is what changed. Here is how to tell us if we failed you. It was boring. It was beautiful. Comments? Dana asked. Predictable, Lila said. We answer with outcomes, not thread wars. At 2:30, Leon returned from a rooftop check, hair ruffled by a city that never loses. 2 thresholds too heavy, 2 door closers too slow, he said. Fix orders written. I'll give you 30 days. Give me 14, Lila said. I like ambition with a wrench, he replied. At 3:12, Marcus's radio barked a sentence that changes afternoons. Ballroom pre-action valve shows pressure drop. Could be a sensor hiccup. Could be not. Define not, Lila said. Could be the sprinklers think there's a fire when there isn't, Marcus said. Or worse, not think there is when there is. Run the isolation test, Lila said. Do it like you're apologizing to the carpet in advance. He disappeared, a man with a date with metal. At 3:25, the convention spilled out of breakout sessions, buzzing like phones. Noor handled a wave with an economy that would make pilots jealous. Rosa pushed a cart past the bar with the serene fatalism of someone who had learned hotel time. Jasmine closed her binder. From Consumer Affairs, she said, you'll get a notice of findings and a corrective action agreement. 30 days to implement most. Some today. We started yesterday, Lila said. Jasmine extended her hand. Good. I'll be back. If you publish what you promise, you won't mind. We don't, Lila said. They shook on sunlight. Leon tucked his forms away. Accessibility passes with conditions, he said. But the culture, whatever happened at that desk, matters more than the ramp. People feel ramps. We'll measure both, Lila said. Marcus reappeared, face composed in the way firefighters are calm when the room isn't. The jockey pump is fine, he said. But we've got a stucco Sanwai on the east riser. It reads open, it's not. If you have an event that kicks heat, fog machines, catering mishap, we could trip pre-action in the ballroom or, worse, delay it if it's needed. Translation, Leon said, already translating. You have a sprinkler system that might cry wolf or fall asleep. Prime lift? Dana asked. Different vendor, Marcus said. But they like the same lunches. Lila looked at Andre. Put a floater at the ballroom panel, eyes on it until close. She said. Radio on. If it blinks, we move. Copy, Andre said. At 4:02, Mr. Reed checked his watch and smiled at nothing in particular. The lobby exhaled and exhaled again. The bar switched to evening glassware. Noor replaced a printer cartridge with one hand and checked a guestin with the other, which is a kind of leadership school doesn't teach. Then at 4:11, the first alarm chirped, timid, almost embarrassed. Heads turned. Marcus's radio snapped alive. False, he said. Panel shows a short burp on East Riser. Reset. The chirp died. People laugh the way you laugh when a plate doesn't break. At 4:19, a water stain blossomed on the ceiling outside the ballroom like bad news deciding to be a flower. Evan saw it first, swore softly, grabbed a ceiling hook. Cover, he said to a banquet server. Move the carts. If that pops. It popped. Not a geyser, not yet, but an accusing trickle that wanted to grow up. Evan jammed a bucket under it and called Marcus, who was already jogging. Andre keyed his radio. Lila, he said, you'll want to be here. She was already moving, low heels quieter than fear. Dana took her place at the desk like the CFO of Evening Calm. Caroline stood, not to be in charge, but to be in sight if someone needed steadiness. At the ballroom, Marcus knelt by a standpipe valve that had decided to be coy. It's sticky, he said. If I close too hard, we trigger pre-action and soak the floor. If I don't close enough, we feed a leak. Guests? Lila asked. Keynote moved out 5 minutes ago. A banquet captain said. Room's empty. For now. Then we test, Lila said. Andre Cordon. Evan tarps. Rosa, towels are yours if we need them after the flood. Noor. On radios. Noor said, appearing with a stack of door signs and a face that had decided. Marcus, Lila said, I'm with you. He spun the wheel a quarter turn. The trickle thickened, then hesitated, then decided to continue anyway. Somewhere in the panel, a relay considered a career in drama. Easy. Marcus breathed to the metal, which is how you talk to things that can hurt you if they think you don't respect them. The alarm chirped again, longer, louder. Leon materialized as if summoned by decibels. Panel shows rise, he said. If it thinks it's hot, pre-action. Hold, Marcus said, hand like a metronome on the valve. Give me 30 seconds. Guess, Andre called to his team. We are not evacuating yet. Repeat, not evacuating. Quiet the room. If the horn blows steady, we move. Till then, eyes on exits. Evan replaced one bucket with 3 smaller ones because sometimes the math is buckets times buckets. Banquet staff covered the A/V rack like a mother putting a blanket on a child who insists they aren't cold. Lila knelt beside Marcus, hand on the pipe as if listening through it. It wants to close, she said softly, to a thing that doesn't understand grammar. Let it. He inched the wheel. The leak shrank to a sulk. The chirp dimmed. Again, she said. He turned another fraction. The panel hesitated, then settled. Leon checked the indicator, nodded. You're out of the woods, he said. Don't go hiking. The room exhaled. The bucket sulked at being unemployed. Evan grinned like a man who liked a fight without a villain. Prime Lift didn't fix this, Dana murmured. They're not this vendor, Lila said. But Rot likes company. Andre's radio crackled. Copy that. Ballroom stable, he said into it, voice smooth water. Desk, resume quiet check-ins. We're fine. Noor's okay came back, small and sharp. Lila stood, wiped her hands on a rag that had once been a good towel and would be again. She looked at Marcus. Thank you? Plumbing, he said. Same as policy. Maintenance wins. She smiled despite the adrenaline. 2 coats, she said. 3 for forgiveness. He laughed. Sprinklers prefer 1, he said. But we'll forgive the metaphor. They walked back toward the lobby, now full but steady. Rosa passed with the hamper like a parade float. We heard the water, she said. We brought the ocean. Cancel the ocean, Lila said. But thank you for the tide. Jasmine and Leon reconvened by the column that had witnessed policy pretending to be marble. They had the look of people who would write their reports clean and sleep because of it. You handled that well, Jasmine said. We got lucky, Lila said. Luck pretends to be planning until planning shows up. Marcus checked his watch. I'll stay on until we cycle pressure after kitchen fires up for dinner, he said. Lila nodded. We'll feed you, she said. At 5:01, the lobby's music shifted to evening. Mr. Reed closed the tab with a gesture that set out fund competence. Caroline wrote 3 notes that would become 3 approvals later. Dana looked at Lila over the top of a phone lighting with headlines that had already found them. Press wants quotes, she said. They can have methods and outcomes, Lila replied. Tell them we failed, we measured, we corrected. No adjectives. Andre approached with a quiet that meant something. Chase just tried to log in from home, he said. We blocked, as instructed. He called vendor relations 5 minutes later. Sonia? Dana asked. Andre nodded. Left a voicemail. We'll pull it if you want. I don't need their theater, Lila said. I need their invoices. Keep the block. If he comes on property, security escorts him for the courtesy of the exit he didn't give others. Noor joined them, posture neat despite the day. Accessible rooms are full but correctly full, she reported. Hospital rate honored. 2 late checkouts comped for convention presenters. No cash deposits requested. Lila looked at her, then at the desk, then back. How's your voice? She asked. Steadier, Noor said. As long as I use it. Keep it, Lila said. Use it on yourself, too. Noor nodded, eyes shinier than she wanted them to be in a lobby. Yes, ma'am. Evening edged closer. The board dinner would begin in an hour. Lila would need to be 2 people and then 1 again. Andre repositioned his team like chess that preferred no checkmates. Rosa ended her shift by starting the next one, as supervisors do. Evan kissed elevator 13 on the panel and begged it to tell the truth. Lila stood in the center of the lobby and listened. Not for alarms. For a tone. For the scrape of shame leaving. For the small pride of staff who'd been seen. For the hush after competence. She turned to Dana. After dinner, she said, we published the vendor RFP timeline. Prime lift and bright white rebid with disclosure. We invite 2 local firms we should have been using already. On it, Dana said. Also, an email from Sonia, subject process concern. Translation, don't look in my drawers. We'll look, Lila said. With clean gloves. At 5:39, a kid in a conference tee ran through the lobby, stopped, came back, and plunked a sticker on the guest satisfaction screen. It read Fix IT in block letters and joy. Noor laughed. Andre did too. Lila smiled like someone who had never loved a sticker more. The chandelier threw warm light on skin it had been designed to flatter. It found its purpose and did the job. Board'll want a speech, Caroline said at Lila's elbow. They'll get a report, Lila said. And a schedule. Caroline touched her arm. That's better than a speech. The radio stayed quiet for the next 5 minutes, which in hotel time is an afternoon. Then, at 5:45, a sound came from the mezzanine, a cough of metal, a thrum like a rumor warming up. Evan looked up, frowned. Leon cocked his head, listening to the building the way a mechanic listens to an engine in a story where the road is long. Marcus's radio popped. Kitchen hood, heat spike. Someone said. Could be a thermostat. Could be. The alarm took a breath. Then it screamed. Light strobed. The panel began to stutter a language only trained people should speak. The ballroom pre-action didn't trigger, but the restaurant hood did a full, dramatic dump and the East Riser decided it would like to audition for a rainstorm. Andre's voice went calm. All stations, implement stage 1. Guide guests to stairwells. Elevators lock. This is not a drill. Lila didn't move toward the door. She moved toward the panel. Let's run the hotel, she said. The alarm screamed until the marble learned what fear sounds like. The chandelier did what chandeliers do, kept glittering as if calm were a bulb you could change. Andre's voice cut through the strobe. Stage 1. Guides at each stairwell. Elevators locked. Keep people moving, not running. Communicate in full sentences. Noor snapped into motion, untethered from the desk without leaving it leaderless. Theo, you have phones. I have the floor. Rosa, water and towels to the mezzanine. Lou, strollers first, tag them, promise them back. She had never given these orders before. Her mouth had practiced them all her life. Lila stepped to the fire panel with Marcus and Leon. Numbers blinked like a panicked heartbeat. Kitchen hood dump confirmed, Marcus said, listening to the panel the way a lifeguard listens to a crowd. CO spike then drop, suppression charges fired. East riser is surging. Ballroom holding, barely. Any heat on guest floors? Lila asked. Leon scanned fast. 14th is clean. 12th clean. Smoke detector in service corridor, restaurant wing. Could be steam from the hood. Could be. Not a guess we'll test with people, Lila said. Andre, move the lobby to the west stair. Noor, tell them what we know and what we don't. Noor hopped onto a luggage bench like it had always been a podium. Folks, listen up. We have an alarm in the restaurant and a water issue behind the ballroom. We're moving as a group to the west stair. No smoke on guest floors. Take a breath, take your key, take your child. Leave the rest. We'll guard it. A toddler started to wail because all toddlers have a pact with alarms. Rosa produced a sticker from the pocket where she kept miracles. The kid hiccuped a laugh and decided the world might live. Dana slid behind the front desk, headset on, voice a metronome. Calling the guests in rooms. Say no smoke on your floor, move calmly to the west stair. Only those words. Repeat them. The fire department's siren grew out of the city like a promise. Marcus met them at the curb with a quick, clean report. Kitchen hood dump, east riser surge, no visible flame, risk of pre-action in ballroom if pressure spikes. No smoke migration to guest corridors. Owner on site. Where? The lieutenant asked. Here, Lila said, stepping forward, putting the word owner where it could do work. We've moved guests to the west stair, accessible team in place, head count sheets started. The lieutenant clocked the calm, the paperwork, the absence of performative chaos. Good. We'll verify the hood, check the riser valve, and sweep guest floors. Keep your people in their lanes. We will, Lila said. In the west stairwell, Noor moved people like a conductor who had learned every instrument by playing it badly first. Hand on the rail, eyes on the step, we're fine, she said to an older couple and meant it into their bones. Lou parked 3 strollers along the wall like little cars in a careful garage and pinned claim tags to parents' sleeves with the same reverence as passports. A boy in a wheelchair rugby chair grinned at Andre as they met at the landing. We trained for this, he said. We'll beat you down 5 flights. Andre grinned back. I'm rooting for you to win, he said. He coordinated his team to act as spotters, not saviors. Upstairs, Rosa knocked on doors with a knuckle that could have been a bell. Housekeeping, she sang, a lullaby in a hurricane. We're moving to the west stair. I've got you. She carried a small roll of blue tape and made X's on doors they'd opened. Systems are just feelings that agreed to be written down. Back at the panel, the kitchen status went from angry red to sulking amber. Marcus listened to the line again. Hood's clear, gas shut, no live flame, he said. East riser pressure dropping, steady. He looked at Leon. Your valve responded to kindness and leverage. Like most valves, Leon deadpanned. The fire lieutenant returned. No heat signatures beyond the kitchen. That riser valve needs love or replacement. It's flirting with failure. You did right moving people. You can stage them in the ballroom foyer while we reset. He looked at Lila. Your team is trained. They're experienced, she said. Training is what we do next. Noor brought the last group down, 2 teens, a grandmother, Mr. Brown with his niece's robot nut and bolted on his lap like a fragile pet. The niece looked up at Lila. It climbs stairs, she said, as if to say we can too. Good, Lila said. But you don't have to today. They staged in the foyer, a temporary town with bottled water and towels and patience. Rosa handed out cups like communion. Noor wrote room numbers on a legal pad so neat it could be a fixture. Theo's voice came over the radio. Phones handled. Guests notified. My mother would be proud. Sonia from vendor relations hovered at the edge of the foyer, phone in hand, expression set to process concern. She chose a moment when the siren outside faded and the lobby exhaled. I'm coordinating with vendors, Sonia said to Lila, tone as professional as a locked drawer. We need to unfreeze disbursements so we can get a text signed in for the riser. The city is in my building, Lila said evenly. We will not buy our way out of this with the same invoices that got us here. Evan will walk your tech if and when he appears. Sonia lowered her voice. With respect, the optics will be owner lead safely, Lila said. Not vendor rescues with a bill. You can either help or get out of the way. Sonia's phone buzzed again. She stepped aside to take it, voice dropping to a whisper that sounded like habit. The lieutenant raised a hand. All clear, he said. Resetting systems. Guests can return floor by floor when security and housekeeping say go. Andre related in a voice that made go sound like home. We reopen by floors 15, 14, 13, he said into the radio. Guides at each landing. We walk folks back. Noor tapped the paper. 1421, Elise Grant, she said, and smiled at the name as if it were a secret she got to keep for 7 more minutes. She looked to Lila. Your floor first? Last, Lila said. We send people, then we go. They did. It took 13 minutes to reset a building's breath. That's longer than it sounds like and shorter than it feels like. The lobby emptied without anyone remembering later how it had filled. The chandelier kept doing its job, which is the best you can say about a thing that doesn't have a pulse. Mr. Reed slid onto a bar stool again as if the world had merely paused for punctuation. He looked at Lila. That's the difference, he said, between owning and visiting. We built it to hold, she said. Now we make it kinder to hold. Jasmine signed a preliminary notice and handed it to Dana. You'll get the formal in 48 hours, she said. Given what we just saw, I expect compliance. Expect publication, Dana replied. Leon scribbled a note for himself and another in his official pad. Replace the East Riser OSNY. I'll want a video. No lunches on the invoice. Marcus clapped Evan on the shoulder. Good hands, he said. Evan shrugged like someone embarrassed to be praised for doing the thing he always does. Good rope, he said, patting the bucket. It's a team sport. Guests drifted back to elevators and stairs. Noor paused at the guest satisfaction screen and wrote in with a fingertip, handled. Human. She didn't sign it. The building recognized the handwriting anyway. Lila found Rosa near the housekeeping closet, re-rolling towels that had tried to be useful. How's the board? She asked. Short, Rosa said. By 2. But we have hands. We'll make it long enough. After we pass inspection officially, Lila said, we'll make it as long as it should have been all along. Rosa nodded. We'll hold you to that. No, Lila said. You'll help me do it. The board dinner did not begin on time. The board did not mind. People who care about outcomes prefer meetings that start late for the right reasons. Caroline touched the back of a chair as if assessing grain. Show us, she said when they finally sat. Then eat. Dana presented the bullet points: alarm origin, system response, evacuation timing, guest count, incident log, damage tally, minimal, vendor status, frozen, RFP in prep, staff performance, strong, commendations for security, front desk, housekeeping, training plan. She put numbers to feelings without making them smaller. Lila added names to bullet points. Noor directed guests with clarity, she said. Andre ran the floor without drama. Marcus and Leon worked the panel like surgeons. Rosa made calm out of towels. Evan made buckets into an equation that balanced. Mr. Reed raised a glass of water. To boring heroics, he said. To boring, Caroline echoed, smiling. Finally, someone from the board said, the video. There was always a video. The one near the ficus had found the river. It had already been clipped, captioned, opinion. Dana cued the hotel's own footage, a single, quiet angle of Lila identifying herself and correcting the desk. The room watched in silence. When it ended, Caroline tilted her head. Do you want a statement? She asked. Or silence? Neither, Lila said. A page on our site labeled what we changed. It lists deposit policy, risk flag rules, accessible inventory, vendor review, complaint link. No adjectives. Then we let the inspection report and quarterly metrics do the talking. Will the internet accept all? A director asked. It will get bored and go, Dana said. That's winning. Consequences? Caroline asked. Suspension continues, Lila said. External investigator interviews vendor relations and acting FOM. Amnesty for truth. Anyone who lied on a form loses the privilege of having one. Support? Caroline said, meaning money. Headcount in housekeeping, Lila said. 2 permanent roles. Shift differentials. Wrist braces and bleach that doesn't bite human skin. Maintenance budget for elevator repair by people who fix, not invoice. Front desk training with scripts that invite, not sort. Approved, Caroline said, not waiting for the formal vote she knew she could get and would. Bring me contracts fast and clean. After dinner, Lila walked the hotel with Andre. The building wore the quiet that follows competence. Somewhere, a violin practiced scales, somewhere else, a convention attendee snored like an airport. The gold key charm sat warm in her pocket from the heat of a day that had asked too much and had gotten enough. They paused by the guest satisfaction screen. Someone had drawn a tiny door in the corner and written open above it. Noor, probably. Or a kid with a sticker theory of governance. Tomorrow, Andre said. We'll get the full report. We'll have to post. I know, Lila said. We'll post. And we'll staff the lobby so anyone who wants to talk to a person can, not just a link. He looked at her. You're not going to fire him tonight? No, she said. I'm going to fire a habit. If he can't live without it, he'll fire himself. Andre grunted a laugh. That's more dangerous. Yes, Lila said. That's why it works. They passed the lobby shop. Noor stood inside, buying a chocolate bar like a medal for not shouting earlier. She saw them and tried to hide the bar behind her back, then didn't. You saved a building, Lila said. Noor shook her head. We saved people. Buildings are just people stacked, Lila said. Get some sleep when it's your turn. Noor nodded. Can I ask a question? Always, Lila said. Why didn't you fire him in the lobby? Noor asked. It would have felt good. Revenge is sugar, Lila said. Reform is food. Noor let the words melt like chocolate. Okay, she said softly. In the service corridor, a security camera caught Sonia slipping a folder into a custodial closet. Andre rewound the feed and watched her slip it there 3 hours earlier and now retrieve it. He said nothing yet. He simply sent a still to Dana with the caption, Drawer found. Dana replied, Chain of custody now. Quiet. At midnight, Lila sat in 1421 and wrote under audit. Incident, alarm, hood dump, valve flirt, executed stage 1, all guests safe. Response, measured, learned, publish. Staff, promote Noor to lead, stipend Andre for training program, add 2 FTE to housekeeping, maintenance budget. Vendors, RFP timetable, Freeze holds. Investigate VR closet. Comms page live. Inspector summary when issued. No adjectives. Chase. Interview with investigator. Credentials blocked. Do not scapegoat systems for choices or choices for systems. Tomorrow, staff forum. Offer amnesty. Set metrics we'll live with. She placed the pen down and stared at the stubborn vine outside. It had made a geometry out of insistence. She liked that. She liked the idea that the thing you do every day, that doesn't get clipped by alarms or opinions, wins. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mother, saw a clip. Smile smaller. Eyes steady. You were kind. Be kinder tomorrow. But not soft. Love you? Lila smiled exactly as instructed and texted back hearts and a photo of the vine. Sleep arrived like a maintenance check, necessary, unglamorous, on time. At 6:10 a.m. The inspector report pinged Dana's inbox with a subject line that belonged in a museum of relief. Preliminary pass. Corrective actions issued. She brought it to Lila with coffee and a grin. Post it, Lila said. Then the forum. The staff forum at 8 o'clock looked like the city. Housekeeping in fresh shirts, front desk with pens they'd click when nervous, maintenance with hands that love metal, security with spines that do what spines do. Sonia stood at the edge, not sure which way authority would blow. Lila stood in front with a mic she didn't need, but the room wanted her amplified. She put the mic down. She wanted the room amplified. Yesterday was loud, she said. Today will be precise. She outlined what they'd changed. She outlined what they'd fund. She named the bad habits they would not keep. She offered amnesty for truth for the next 48 hours, no discipline for past policy compliance if they came forward with details. She promised two things that don't often fit in the same sentence: forgiveness and consequence. Ask me anything, she said. A hand went up. May? If policy is wrong, and I follow it because I need my job, and I don't write a note, am I a bad person? You're a person, Lila said. We fix policy so it stops asking you to choose between a paycheck and your ethics. If someone told you to cheat the notes, that someone is the problem. If you did it because the room felt like it wanted it, learn a new language. We'll teach it. Another hand, Evan. Do we get to pick vendors who answer phones? Yes, Lila said. And they'll come meet you before we sign. If they don't respect the elevator, they can walk the stairs. A third, Sonia, finally. Will vendor relations be thrown under the bus for doing what leadership wanted? No buses, Lila said. Just reports. If you took money or promised favors, resign now and we won't call it a firing. If you followed instructions and those instructions were wrong, say so, and you can help fix it. Those are the only two doors. Sonia swallowed. The room did not swivel to look at her. The room looked at Lila and understood there was a new border on the map. After the forum, Andre walked a small brown envelope to Dana. Inside, gift cards, a restaurant receipt, a printed Gmail thread from a PrimeLift account to Sonia's personal address. Dana logged it, placed it with the stills, began a chain of custody that would bore a judge into trust. Noor returned to the desk with coffee for Theo and a note on her palm: keys, voice, water. She smiled when she saw Lila pass. We're open, she said. We are, Lila said. Sometime before lunch, a message arrived from Chase through the investigator's portal. A statement full of passive voice and market alignment and accidental policies. Lila didn't read it yet. She had a hotel to run. At 12:03, a woman in scrubs checked in using the hospital rate. Noor didn't ask for cash or stories. She handed a key, a bottle of water, and a "Thank you for what you do." The woman blinked, then slept in an elevator briefly because safety does that to the body. At 12:30, Mr. Reed sent a one-line email to Caroline and Lila. Dividends prefer buildings like this. Attached, an increase in his fund's commitment to the next property in the pipeline. He believed in outcomes. Outcomes had shown up with a mop. Afternoon promised to behave. Lila didn't believe it. She liked surprises better when they were on the schedule. She walked the property again because that's how you make buildings tell you secrets. They wait for the second lap. She paused at the guest satisfaction screen and tapped. What would you change? She typed. Keep the door open. Make the hinge louder. The lobby lived. The chandelier did its small job. The vine outside made a plan for the roof. The hotel had survived alarms and mirrors. Now it would survive paperwork. The day after alarms tends to overcompensate. The lobby smiled too hard. The flowers pretended they hadn't watched a stairwell fill with strangers. Lila let the building try. She had other work. The investigator arrived with a leather notebook and the kind of voice you trust even when it's telling you that you've been wrong. Allison Park, she said, offering a card that didn't need the gold. Independent counsel. I'll be quick and thorough, not in that order. Dana walked her through the chain of custody like a docent at a museum of receipts. Sonia's envelope, the PrimeLift emails, the bright white rate jumps, the screenshots of risk flags blooming in the same hours that, walked, guests were sent into the night. Allison nodded, wrote, nodded again. Truth had a rhythm. They took a small conference room off back of house and turned it into the quiet end of a trumpet. People went in. Truth came out, sometimes clean, sometimes with lint. Theo went first. He kept his voice low and the facts high. I was asked to recode 2 comps as guest damage last month, he said. I wrote notes. The notes got rewritten. I saved my notes. I didn't save my job on purpose. I saved the truth on accident. By whom? Allison asked. He hesitated the way people do when they're not trying to be brave, and they are anyway. Acting FOM, he said. Chase Mallory. Anyone else? She asked. Vendor relations suggested we tighten language on the comps file, Theo said. That's how the email put it. Tight is a funny word when it means lie. Rosa came in after, bandage fresh, eyes not interested in being dramatic. We were told, sometimes, to mark scuffs as guest damage to hit targets, she said. We didn't. Mostly. When we did, we felt it. She looked at her hands. We feel things. Who told? Allison asked. Front office, Rosa said. Not the agents. The boss with the mirror smile. Noor took the chair and sat straight like a student determined to pass a test by telling it what it asked, not what it wanted. The risk flag list on the printer bothered me, she said. The handwritten groups note bothered me more. I didn't write it. I didn't use it. I saw it used. By who? Allison asked. Chase, Noor said. And once, an agent who thought policy was a friend who would help them keep their job. I told them the friend was a bully. They listened. Sometimes. Andre arrived with posture and a log that outclassed software. Risk flags were applied without security incidents, he said, calm as a metronome. We lifted them when we saw them. We do not pre-punish. That's not security, that's theater. Did you ever report this? Allison asked. I reported through channels, Andre said. Channels flowed uphill and evaporated. Sonia walked in last of the morning, polished as always. She placed her tablet on the table like an offering and folded her hands so they couldn't look guilty. Bright white and PrimeLift, Allison said, not blinking. Kickbacks? Referral bonuses. Sonia corrected. Industry standard. Paid to whom? Allison asked. To a consulting LLC, Sonia said. I was an advisor. Allison didn't flinch. And PrimeLift? They. Sonia began. She searched for an adjective that could dress a check. They value relationships. Which purchased what? Allison asked, pen still. Responsiveness, Sonia said. Access. Which failed? Allison said. To respond or access the broken thing. Sonia's mouth tightened. The GM encouraged hard alignment with vendors, she said. He liked lunches. He liked invoices that sang. I sang along. Is the GM here? Allison asked. Former, Sonia said. Running a resort 2 states over. Not our subject, Allison said without malice. Ours is this building. Did you receive money personally? Sonia breathed. Yes. Will you resign? Allison asked. Sonia nodded like a person accepting whether. Yes. We'll include cooperation in our report, Allison said. It helps. It doesn't erase. Sonia's eyes shone for a second, then straightened. I can live with that. By noon, Allison had a picture that wasn't a surprise to anyone who worked the front desk at midnight or the laundry at 6. She took lunch standing, reading while chewing, and then requested one more interview. Chase Mallory. He arrived in a suit that wore him. Security had him sign in, hand over his badge, and sit where the sun couldn't make him handsomer than his choices. He glanced at Lila through the glass, and confusion did a brief, frantic dance across his face. Why am I outside? Why is she inside? Allison started simple. Unauthorized resort fee pilot? Market alignment, he said. The comp set. Show me the board approval, she said. He looked at his hands. Market alignment doesn't sign paper. He had nothing. Risk flags applied without incidents? She asked. Patterns, he said. We had patterns. Groups with higher incident rates. We used judgment. You used bias, Allison said, untying the bow on the word. Judgment. Deposits for locals, for people with soft voices, for nurses and scrubs. It was never personal, he said. That, Allison replied, is what makes it worse. Vendor lunches? She asked. Relationship management, he said. The GM modeled it. You're not an echo, she said. You're a person. He deflated, then tried anger on. Why am I the only one in the room? You're not, Allison said, sliding a resignation letter across the table with Sonia's name on it. But you are the acting authority who signed things that hurt people. He blinked at the letter, at the calm font of consequence. I delivered numbers, he said, softer now, as if numbers were a blanket that could still keep him warm. ADR, RevPAR, even guest satisfaction if you squinted. You delivered damage, Allison said, and made other people clean it. You can cooperate now, and that will matter. She stopped there. Offers work best when the room can hear the edge. He stared at the table. What happens to me? He asked, voice small enough to be honest. Suspension continues, Allison said. Final decision after the report. The difference between termination with cause and resignation with references depends on how useful your truth is now. For a long moment, he was just a person in a chair. Then he nodded. Ask, he said. She did, he answered. Some of it helped. Some of it hurt him more. Truth is not a pet. Outside, the lobby kept its appointment with afternoon. The convention thinned to airport lines. Noor took a short break and sat on the staff steps with Rosa, sharing a granola bar that tried to be a meal and failed adorably. I thought she'd fire him in front of everyone, Noor said. Revenge is sugar, Rosa replied. I like food. They laughed at a line they didn't know was a quote from last night. Andre joined them with 3 waters like he'd been briefed by a kindness committee. Inspectors posted the preliminary, he said. Pass with corrective actions. Dana put it live. Comments are boring. Thank God, Noor said. I don't have energy for interesting. In the CFO's corner, Dana finished drafting the RFP timeline. She chose vendors like a person picking babysitters, people who answer the phone, show up, and don't invoice the refrigerator. Redwood Lift, local, unionized, with technicians who knew a valve wasn't a rumor. Cedar Clean Linens, facility tour smelled like clean, not chemical, with a dermatologist on retainer for staff consults. She added a line item the board wouldn't love and would approve: housekeeping risk supports and non-caustic agents. Numbers learn to be kind if you teach them. Mr. Reed sent a second note because money likes to announce itself when it behaves. After your RFP posts, our fund will pre-commit financing for your next property if you adopt this policy set portfolio-wide, he wrote. Caroline replied with a thumbs-up emoji she used rarely and effectively. By late afternoon, Allison emerged with a draft that deserved the word. She asked to walk with Lila and Dana in the service corridor where victory doesn't trip on the marble. You have two threads, Allison said. System and choice. System rewarded certain numbers and looked away from how they were reached. Choice took advantage and called it policy. We can fix system. Choice gets consequence. Recommendations? Lila asked. Terminate the unauthorized fee structure. Publish deposit rules. Audit flags weekly by origin with security sign-off. Vendor rebid with conflict of interest disclosure. Require dual approval for any policy change that touches a guest's face, Allison said. And build training that teaches people to say no to bad policy without losing their job. Consequences? Dana asked. Sonia resigns today, Allison said. Chase, my recommendation is termination with cause unless he cooperates persuasively enough to warrant a resignation with severance capped at policy minimum. Will he? Lila asked. He started to, Allison said. Enough to show he knows the difference now. Hard to tell if it's learning or fear. Often those wear each other's clothes. They stepped back into the lobby, which was busy without bragging. Noor was teaching a new hire, Kamal, how to make a reservation look like welcome. Rosa was showing a junior how to make a bed that forgave the human who would ruin it. Evan stood at elevator 13 like a therapist. Andre nodded to a woman in scrubs as she checked in without retelling her day to justify sleep. Lila looked at the room and made two decisions. She called Sonia into her office first. Sonia stood, hands folded the same way they'd been this morning. Lila laid the resignation letter on the table and slid over a document that had been written years ago for moments like this, non-disparagement with cooperation clause. You worked hard, Lila said. You made bad choices. You can keep your license by telling the whole truth in writing. You'll leave with no letter of recommendation and no lawsuit. If you want a redemption arc, find it on your time, not mine. Sonia read. Her hands shook finally a little. Thank you, she said, which meant many things and none of them were gratitude for being caught. Next, Lila asked Allison to bring in Chase. He sat, shoulders slumped, and for the first time looked like a person rather than a role. You humiliated a guest who was your owner, Lila said. That's not why you're here. You're here because you built policy that humiliated people without titles. He nodded, a small, exhausted movement. You tried to align with a market that didn't earn you, she said. We are not a bus station. We are also not a velvet rope. We are a door. I thought standards meant sorting, he said. Standards mean serving, she said. And refusing to be lazy about it. He swallowed. What happens to me? You resign today, she said. If your written cooperation matches today's interview, your severance will be minimal and your reference will be truthful rather than cruel. If you choose not to cooperate, termination with cause and an explanation to any future employer who asks. I don't deserve. He started. You deserve consequence, she said. You can still choose what kind. He stared at the table, then signed. Allison witnessed. Dana filed. Andre collected the badge without enjoying it. Chase stood to go, then paused. Noor, he said, voice cracking in the way you hate when it's finally useful. She's good. Don't let this make her cynical. It won't, Lila said. Because we're changing the thing that would make it so. He nodded once, then left through the service entrance, which is the right exit for a man who had forgotten where the real door was. At 5, Dana pushed a button that put the What We Changed page live with 2 addenda, vendor rebids initiated and leadership changes. The language was plain as a grocery list. The comments were quieter than the ice machine. The anonymous inbox filled for 20 minutes and then, weirdly, slowed. Allison smiled when she saw it. That's what happens when people believe notes won't die, she said. They write fewer because they need fewer. Noor came by Lila's elbow with a printed schedule. I rearranged shifts, she said. We can add a second on afternoons without cutting morning coverage. Housekeeping boards are too heavy. Rosa says 2 new hires will relieve the corners. Approved, Lila said. And your front desk lead as of now. Stipend starts next pay period. Title is on paper because I don't want you doing a job invisibly. Noor tried to respond and succeeded in smiling instead. Yes, ma'am. Evan came over with a parts list and optimism. Redwood Lift says they can swap the O-San-Y tomorrow if procurement doesn't have a panic attack, he said. I told them procurement now answers to reality. Procurement will have a latte and enjoy the show, Dana said, appearing with a signature pen. Rosa walked up with 2 neatly folded towels, an offering already accepted. Forum posters are going up in the laundry and the break room, she said. We listed the anonymous email and the policy changes. We used a font people can read. Fonts are policy, Lila said. Thank you, Mr. Reed watched from the bar with the content expression of a man who had just watched competent people be competent. Caroline stood beside him and said softly, Endgame? Board tomorrow, Lila said. We lock policy into governance so the next mirror smile can't improvise fees. We publish quarterly outcomes. We tie executive comp to the metrics that keep people from sleeping in their cars. Executive comp? Mr. Reed said, amused. You'll make friends. I have enough, Lila said. I need outcomes. Evening came without sirens. The chandelier did its job, which is all anyone had asked. The guest satisfaction screen said handled in 3 different handwritings and a drawing of a hinge that looked suspiciously like Noor's sense of humor. Allison sent the preliminary findings to the board at 7:12, attached to a note. System fixes advised. Personnel actions recommended. Cooperation credit applied where earned. Caroline replied with a meeting invite titled Special Session, Policy and Culture Locks. She added a line under the title. Bring numbers. Bring names. Bring nothing to hide. Lila went upstairs to 1421 and stood a minute at the window with the alley vine. She wanted to believe it was climbing faster. Plants ignore human pacing. That too is a mercy. She sat at the desk and wrote, one last time under audit. Investigator, findings drafted. Sonia resigns. Chase resigns with minimal severance. Cooperation logged. Vendors, RFP posted. Redwood plus Cedar Clean shortlisted. Staff consultant selection. Policy, deposit rules published. Risk flags require security incident. Accessibility prioritized, not managed. Training, scripts that invite. Escalation that protects. Notes that live. People, Noor lead. Add 2 FT housekeeping. Stipend Andre for training program. Parts for O-San-Y. Governance tomorrow. Lock policy. Tie comp. Publish quarterly outcomes. Message, no adjectives. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number marked Mr. Brown. My niece's robot took second. We slept. Thank you for not making us prove we needed a door. She sent back a thumbs up and a photo of the hinge drawing from the lobby screen. He replied with a ladder emoji and a heart. She turned off the lamp. The building breathed like a big animal that knew who was holding the leash and approved. Somewhere below, a new hire practiced welcoming people in a mirror that did not require a smile to lie. Somewhere above, a nurse set an alarm and ignored it because finally she could. Tomorrow would be a boardroom. Policies turned to locks. Locks turned to keys. The quiet key sat on her folio, gold catching the last streetlight, not magic, just metal shaped like a promise. The special session began with the clink of porcelain and the quiet of people who had decided to listen before they spoke. The boardroom's windows framed a city that had already judged them and moved on. That's the mercy of cities. They don't linger unless you ask them to. Caroline Voss set a single page in front of each director. 2 sections, she said. Locks, the policies that can't be piloted by whim. And dials, metrics we will publish quarterly whether they flatter us or not. Lila didn't stand. She let the room come to her. Yesterday we corrected behavior with adrenaline, she said. Today we correct systems with ink. Dana clicked a remote. The screen filled with plain words. Locks. No cash-only deposits. Holds by card only, published amounts. Risk flags require a filed security incident. Weekly audit by origin, published aggregate. Accessible inventory prioritized. No yield management on ADA rooms. No fee changes without board or owner approval. Vendor contracts require conflict of interest disclosure. Dual signatures. Staff review of performance before renewal. Complaint routes. Anonymous channel monitored by Security Plus CFO. No retaliation. Clause enforced by counsel. Dials. Time to resolution for complaints. Percentage of accessible requests fulfilled. Walk rate by profile, aggregated, privacy preserved. Comp versus. Guest damage, ratio with motive notes. Vendor response times versus. Invoice times. Staff turnover by department, with exit reasons. Mr. Reed sat forward, fingers steepled. Tie executive compensation to 3 of those, he said. Choose the ones that keep people from sleeping in their cars. A director across from him, silver hair, silver pen, tilted his head. Transparency attracts lawsuits. Opacity attracts rot, Lila said. We can't afford rot. Lawsuits? He pressed. Publish methods and outcomes. Don't publish names, Allison said from the end of the table. Pattern-level truth is defensible and useful. Gossip-level detail isn't. Caroline tapped the table once. Vote. Hands rose. All but one. The one paused, then followed. It's easier to be brave when the room is, too. Motion carries, Caroline said. Locks install. Dials publish. Lila nodded once and turned to the next page. Leadership changes. Vendor relations, resignation accepted, cooperation noted. Acting FOM, resignation accepted with minimal severance, cooperation noted. Promotions and support, Noor Rahman to front desk lead, Andre Baptiste stipend to design and run training, 2 FTs added to housekeeping, maintenance budget unlocked. The list sounded like bricks, not a ribbon cutting. That was the point. A director cleared her throat. And communications? Already live, Dana said. What we changed page stays at the top of the site for 90 days. No adjectives. Caroline smiled. The board blesses boredom. They adjourned with the clean snap of a well-made binder. As the room emptied, Mr. Reed drifted to the window beside Lila. You asked for locks, he said. I asked for quiet nights, Lila said. Locks are how you get them. He nodded. My fund will underwrite your next acquisition, conditional on this governance traveling with you. It will, she said. We're franchising boring. They left the glass and the chairs and walked into the work. Redwood Lift arrived at 9 with tool bags and technicians who smelled like metal and patience. Evan greeted them like cousins he wanted to impress. They rode elevator 13 together and spoke its language until it confessed. By noon, the OSAN-Y valve on the east riser had been replaced with a dignity it had not known since installation. Leon returned to watch the test and said the 4 words staff wait their whole career to hear from an inspector. You did it right. Cedar Clean linens rolled in a sample cart and a small visiting team that included a dermatologist. Rosa touched the new pillowcases, rubbed them between forefinger and thumb, and nodded like a priest blessing a loaf. No bite, she said. Soft. Patch tests for staff are free, the dermatologist added. Rashes are not line items, they're injuries. We treat. Rosa let herself be seen tearing up. Then she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and took the training schedule. Noor gathered the front desk for the first open door session, scripts that invite, escalation language that protects, policy cards that fit in a pocket and in a panic. She stood where Chase had stood and taught a different math. When you want to say no to a person, she said, first ask if you can say yes to the policy. If the policy is wrong, you call me or security. You don't make up a rule to feel safe. Kamal raised his hand. What do I do when someone drops a famous name, and asks me to break the rules because they're in a hurry. You look at your card, Noor said. You say, we do this the same way for everyone because that's how we keep the line moving for you next time. Then you call me. I'll bring water and an apology if it's our error. If it's not, I'll bring company while you hold the line. Theo piped in from the side. And you write the note. Notes that live protect you later. Andre piloted a training on risk flags that felt less like a lecture and more like a ritual. Pre-punishment isn't security, he said. Our job is after and before, prevent and respond, not instead. If your gut is loud, feed it better data. He passed out little hinge-shaped pins at the end of the session. To remind you, he said. Doors, not walls. Mid-afternoon draped itself over the lobby like a cat. The convention was done, the building exhaled, the river of arrivals slowed to a stream. Dana walked through in flats that made finance seem like hospitality, checked the bulletin where the staff forum notes hung, and smiled at the line Rosa had added. No skipping meals. No skipping joy. The day, being a day, held a test in its pocket anyway. A black SUV arrived with an entourage that carried itself like gravity. The woman who stepped out was recognizable to anyone with a pulse and a streaming subscription. Elena Merrick, talk show star, empire wearer, famous for being kind on camera and less practiced off it. Her handler swept to the desk with a breeze that wanted to be wind. Ms. Marek's suite is ready, he said. We need the adjoining accessible room cleared for her stylist. Noor glanced at the inventory and then at the card in her pocket. The accessible room is reserved for a guest who needs it, she said. We can move. It's her, the handler said, meaning the planet had tilted. We'll need the door open between them. Noor kept her voice steady. We can move Ms. Marek's suite to a different floor with an adjoining standard. I'll upgrade the view. Elena approached, sunglasses still on, kindness toggled to busy. Is there a problem? No, ma'am, Noor said. We just don't move accessible rooms for convenience. We will give you anything else. The handler bristled. This hotel knows us. This hotel knows policy. Noor said, not unkindly. And why it exists. Elena removed her glasses slowly, reading the moment for what it was, the kind she would eventually talk about on her show as if it had happened somewhere else. Move us to the view, she said to the handler. And get me a tea. She's right. Of course, the handler said, swallowing a habit. Noor printed the keys. Welcome, she said. And thank you? Elena paused, searching Noor's face for something that wasn't adoration or obedience. She found it, respect. You've had a week, Elena said quietly. We've had a hotel, Noor replied. Elena smiled. Put that on a mug, she said, and meant it like a compliment. 5 minutes later, the original accessible room's guest arrived, a teenager with a cane and a mother whose eyes carried a perfect mixture of pride and fear. Noor handed keys and a map and a welcome that didn't ask them to audition. In the bar, Mr. Reed watched the exchange and texted Caroline one emoji, a hinge. Upstairs, Allison finalized the findings and sent the full report. Caroline scheduled the vote to embed the locks into the operating agreement itself. This wasn't just policy now, it was governance. Habit would have to find a new building. Evening painted the lobby warm again. Staff gathered near the back for a 10-minute huddle that someone future would call a tradition and someone older would call common sense. Lila stepped up with her hands empty. We're not done, she said. We're never done. That's the good part. Tomorrow we start training for the next thing we don't want to need. She looked at Noor. You kept the door defined. She looked at Rosa. You kept the rooms human. She looked at Andre. You kept fear from getting loud. She looked at Evan. You kept the building honest. She looked at Dana. You kept the numbers from lying. She looked at everyone. And you kept each other from thinking the hard part was proof of failure instead of proof we're doing the work. Rosa raised her reusable cup in the air. Too boring, she said. Too boring, they answered, and it sounded like prayer and peace. The board vote the next morning was ceremonial. Governance inked what the room had already decided. A director tried one last time to be exciting. Do we need quarterly publishing? He asked. Could we do annual? Quarterly, Lila said. Annual is how you hide seasons. They passed it. They passed everything. 2 days later, the city posted the final inspection report, pass with corrective actions verified. The hotel published a link to it without dressing it up. Comments dribbled in and dried. A local columnist attempted outrage and found none. A guest posted a photo of the guest satisfaction screen with 3 words scrawled in block letters. Handled. Human. Open. Sonia left the building through the same service door Chase had used. She carried a box and kept her head steady. In her email sat a thank you from Allison for her cooperation. It wasn't absolution. It was a line drawn where she could plant her feet for the next job if she learned. Chase sent a final note through the investigator's portal, an apology without performance, a narrative of what he'd done and why it had felt like leadership when it was actually fear. He asked that Noor be protected from any blowback. He didn't ask for a reference. He got a 2-sentence confirmation of receipt and a recommendation that didn't lie. It was almost mercy. Redwood Lift finished the last test on elevator 13 and rode past on a tag with a pen Rosa had decorated with a sticker of a door. The car purred to 5 without pretending to stop at 4.5 first. Evan clapped the panel lightly like a coach. Cedar Clean replaced Bright White without a poem. Housekeeping hands stopped itching. Pillows stopped acting like weapons. Rosa made a board that fit the human body and didn't apologize for labor. The What We Changed page stayed up for 90 days and then moved to a permanent link in the footer. Quarterly outcomes began to appear there, simple charts and notes. Deposits 0 cash only. Hold policy published. Average hold amount X. Risk flags down 87%, 100% with security incident, 98% lifted within 24 hours post-resolution. Accessible 99% fulfillment. Exceptions documented with alternatives, staff trained. Walks, down 62%, vouchers used for vulnerability, not optics. Vendor response, average 1.3 hours, invoice/payment correlation chart posted, no double codes. Staff turnover down, exit interviews show fewer, policy pressure, notes. It was dull like rainfall totals and twice as important. The lobby learned a new sound, the sound of nothing happening because people had done work in advance. Elena Merrick returned a month later and shot a silent selfie in the mirror, posting a caption that read, "Some places measure then mean it." It got likes. Noor did not see it. She was busy teaching Kamal how to say no like a yes that protects. On a late evening when the city tasted like rain, a woman in a navy dress and flats walked in with a small leather folio. The front office didn't pause, it greeted. The chandelier did its 3-degree warmer trick and caught gold on a charm that wasn't a key but had always been. "Checking in," Lila said at the desk. "Welcome," Kamal said, as if he had not practiced the word 100 times that afternoon. "Name?" "Elise Grant," she said. He typed. "We have you, Ms. Grant. Cityview Queen. We're running our standard hold." "Of course," she said. "Would you like water?" he asked. Or, he stopped himself, smiled. "I shouldn't ask or. I should offer. Here's water. And here's the map." She took them both. "Thank you." Noor appeared at his shoulder, glanced, didn't startle. She had long ago stopped needing surprises to know what to do. "Welcome," she echoed. "Elevators are to your left. If the room's too quiet or too loud, tell us, we'll move you, no charge." "Thank you," Lila said again, and headed toward the elevator that had finally decided to be honest. On 1421 waited with the alley vine in fine health and a new pane on the window that made the city look like it had been cleaned but not erased. She set the folio on the desk and opened the notebook to a fresh page. She wrote one line. Door held. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dana, quarterlies posted. Investor doubled down. Staff party Sunday. Rosa demanded cake that tastes like cake. Lila replied with a thumbs up and a cake emoji. Technology understood. She went back downstairs without needing to. Habit is a long hallway, you walk it. At the guest satisfaction screen, a kid stuck a sticker of a ladder next to last week's door. Noor laughed. Andre walked by and touched the hinge pin on his lapel as if checking a compass. Rosa returned a wrist brace to a colleague who had borrowed it. Evan leaned against elevator 13 like a man who'd forgiven a liar. Caroline stepped into the lobby with sleeves rolled and Money doing what Money should, be present and quiet. She looked at the screen and then at Lila. Quarterlies are dull, she said. Good, Lila said. A family checked in with a violin case. A nurse checked in without a story. A famous person checked in and said please. A man with a local zip checked in and was treated like a person who sleeps. No one said the word miracle. A building remembered its job. A policy remembered its purpose. A team remembered a week when alarms tried to teach them and they decided to learn. At the end of the night, Lila stood by the exit where the revolving door met the sidewalk. She touched the gold charm in her pocket and then the push bar on the side door, heavy, intentional, a shape that says out and in with the same metal. Andre joined her. We good? He asked. We're maintained, she said. Same thing, he said. Better thing, she replied. They watched a guest hold the door for another without thinking. You can't write that into policy. You can only make it likely. The chandelier hummed its warm light. The vine outside took another inch of wall because walls are challenges, not orders. Noor finished her shift and laughed with Kamal about nothing that would ever matter to governance, and everything that would ever matter to people. Rosa turned out a supply closet light with the satisfaction of a chapter ending. Dana closed a spreadsheet like a lullaby. Evan pressed the elevator button and it answered like a friend. Lila walked back to the desk and tapped the screen one last time. How was your arrival? She typed. Defined. Measured. Open. She didn't sign it. She didn't have to. The building knew the handwriting. She went upstairs, turned off the lamp, and slept in a room that had no drama left to offer. Morning would come with its little wheels, and she would oil them, and someone else would too. That's the point. Not miracles. Maintenance. Keys, hinges, doors. The quiet kind that outlasts the noise. Thanks for listening to Blackness Hour. If Lila's story moved you, subscribe, like, and share. Comment with your favorite line. Rubrics, not vibes. Fairness isn't charity, it's cheaper. Or, define the door, show the hinge. New episodes are coming. More Black narratives measured in truth, craft, and care. Save this to a playlist, turn on the bell, and follow our socials in the description. Until next time, keep the light on the door.